Call to order the 7 o'clock regular Board of Education meeting for November 12th. And if we could, I'll stand for moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance with Amanda Pickett.
November is Native American Heritage Month. Interestingly, November also holds the created American tradition of Thanksgiving. As a community, we thanked our veterans on Sunday with a parade and observed the holiday yesterday. Thank you to all those who have served. Your sacrifice for our freedom is acknowledged and remembered. Thank you also to the schools who have organized special ceremonies for our community veterans and the students that participated in the parade. Tonight, after a heavy week, I'm going to read the Great Spirit Prayer, which is translated by Lakota Sioux Chief Yellow Lark in 1887. O Great Spirit, whose voice I hear in the wind, whose breath gives life to all the world, hear me. I need your strength and wisdom. Let me walk in beauty and make my eyes ever behold the red and purple sunset. Make my hands respect the things you have made and my ears sharp to hear your voice. Make me wise so that I may understand the things you have taught my people. Help me to remain calm and strong in the face of all that comes towards me. Let me learn the lessons you have hidden in every leaf and rock. Let me seek pure thoughts and act with the intention of helping others. Help me find compassion without empathy overwhelming me. I seek strength, not to be greater than my brother, but to fight my greatest enemy, myself. Make me always ready to come to you with clean hands and straight eyes, so when life fades as the fading sunset, my spirit may come to you without shame. Now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice.
Okay, so fire evacuation announcement. In the unlikely event of a fire, you can exit the back chamber doors and go out to the parking lot, or you can go out the side chamber doors, take a left down the stairway, and all the way out to the parking lot. And good news, the lavatories on this floor are now complete. So there'll be no more running up and down the elevator, so good. Kathy, roll call, please.
Mrs. Pickett?
Here.
Mr. Ryder?
Here.
Mrs. Acree?
Here.
Dr. Calnan?
Here.
Mrs. Cushman?
Here.
Mr. Janitis? Here. Mr. Kober?
Here.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Here.
Chairwoman Riley?
Here. Okay, number 6, board guest, Stowe Early Learning Center. Ms. Rocchio.
Yeah, so we're going to welcome up, no, that's you, yep. We're going to welcome the Early Childhood Initiative Director Jacqueline Valley and all of her friends with her up to the desk, and she's going to take us through and share with the board Stowe's innovative accomplishments, recognition as an Apple Distinguished School, and then she'll later on also be discussing the Head Start grants.
Yes.
It's a 2-for-1 special with Jacqueline today.
Good evening, everyone. We're so excited to be here twice tonight. Before we get started talking about our Apple Distinguished and Apple Success Story journey, I do have to introduce a very important guest that we have with us. This is Riley Drew and her teacher, Mrs. Curley. And Riley is the photographer of the night tonight. And Riley, you will learn later, always asks permission before taking a photo. She would like to document this for us tonight. If anyone's opposed to a photo, you can just give her a thumbs down when she comes near you or a signal, and Mrs. Curley will help to make sure she knows that you're not okay with photos. Does that sound okay?
Yes.
Okay.
Is it safe for me to take a photo from this direction?
Mom and Dad say yes. Do you want to say hi? No? Okay, that's okay. We did talk to Riley. If she feels overwhelmed by all the grown-ups in the room, she can certainly just let us know and we will let her go. Okay, so you can take pictures whenever you feel like it with Mrs. Curley, okay? Okay. So Stowe Early Learning Center is a very hopping building if you haven't been there. We have a lot of littles under one roof, about 300 that we have enrolled for our Board of Ed side. There's others that are enrolled through the town side, and there are play groups with kids coming and going for itinerant services all day long. We were a technology desert, as people sometimes call it. meaning we didn't have technology. And now we are an Apple success story. So we're going to take you through that a little bit. How did we get here? So in 2019, we had a random iPad here and there or a piece of technology that we might have used to make something exciting for the kids. And then COVID happened and we went home and we had iPads quickly. And so that we became a one-to-one district real quick, as you know. And then we went to school hybrid a little bit. Some kids came in person, some kids were learning at home, and so that was interesting. And then we returned back to school traditionally, if you will, and we had all of these devices sitting in carts with nothing to do. And so we asked the question, what are we going to do with them? Because we have them, we should use them. There's a lot of power in them, but we want to be extremely intentional and thoughtful because we're all aware that we have the littles and we don't want them sitting around on a screen to watch videos or passively engage with media. We want them to be informed. We want them to have opportunities to collaborate. We want learning to remain social with our technology. So we worked with Dr. Wiley and a team of Apple coaches and specialists who we have the luxury of having some grant funding to work with to get us sort of up to speed on what the iPad can do for us. But then it's the power of the Stowerley Learning Center Village where people design lessons and activities and we sort of feed off one another. Hey, I tried this. Let's see what we can do with that. Lots of reflection, lots of sharing. And so we were asked to apply to be an Apple Distinguished School, which we did. And we received notification that we are distinguished from 2023 through 2026. You'll see a quick video in a minute. Apple Distinguished Schools are thought of as being extremely innovative and creative and leading the way for change. We're not technically supposed to note it, but we're one of 2 schools in Connecticut. Apple doesn't like you to use the numbers, but we have to celebrate where we can. So I'll ask for forgiveness on that one. And then this year, recently, we had our story published. You have a 1-pager on your space, and you'll see the link later. So with that, I'm going to go on to how our breaking news came. Okay, so we were very excited about that. But the journey didn't just happen. It's not a magic wand. We went from hesitation to innovation, I'm going to be honest. So the teachers and staff here with me tonight know that I'm like, hey, this is so exciting, let's do it. And they're like, what? Like, how are we doing this? I'm like, don't worry, we've got you, we're gonna do it. We're gonna figure it out together. And so the photos here show a process of professional learning occurring, and it wasn't a one and done. We engaged in professional learning, then we went to see each other in classrooms, then we tried it out, we had a coach, we would work with each other to give feedback, and so on and so forth until we really embedded the use of this technology into our curriculum. And now we're innovating every day. I've seen new things even today. Somebody had kiddos creating a blueprint of a park using shapes in an app and then creating QR codes, which is really cool for 4-year-olds. Okay, a peek inside of our classrooms. Sorry, okay. You want this? Okay, so we are at Inclusion, Access, and Empowered. The picture on the left, Mrs. Tower is going to talk about these two, so go ahead. Take it a second, and then there you go.
Yep. So we use the iPad to support all children, including those that receive special education services. We do this through programs that they can use to communicate, such as Proloquo, which is on the left. And we use different accessibility features through the iPad and a variety of different stylists that you'll see to assist children who require differentiation for fine motor skills.
The picture on my far left, I'm assuming it's on yours as well. It's a child holding their stylus like this, and so it was modified. Mrs. Towers worked with our speech and language support staff to try and figure out a way to give this child more motor control to target what she wanted to say, and so they put an old school pencil grasp on top of a stylus, and then she was able to grasp it and communicate, which is a game changer. Okay. Sorry, Apple gave us these amazing pictures that they captured while they were there. This child was working. You can see a square in the top of her iPad. They were studying Picasso using shapes and constructing Picasso-style art. Okay, your turn.
So one of the first tools that we teach the kids are the camera and the screen mirror. Most of them are already familiar with the camera. And screen mirroring was in conversations that we had with the elementary schools, what's something that would be helpful when they go on to kindergarten. So in this video, to give you a background, what they're doing is they have virtual show and tell. So they get to take the iPad home, and instead of bringing the toy or whatever it is that they want to show to school, if it gets lost or stolen or someone takes it by accident, they can just take a picture of what they want and they bring it to school. They get to mirror onto the screen. And then they do a mini presentation in front of their peers of asking questions, talking about it, and then they interact with their peers after, which is what you'll see in this video.
All right, this is Macy, show and tell. She is screen mirroring.
This is my auntie's baby.
You want to tell us anything else about your auntie's baby?
It was born.
So the baby was born. We did cut this because they are 3 and 4, heading towards 5, and it takes a little longer in a video for them to get all their questions and comments out. However, she was able to mirror that screen independently. We do have a microphone. In some classrooms, the teachers feel that it elevates engagement, so they give them the mic. They're having an amazing opportunity to practice speaking skills, listening skills, questioning. It's a lot of pressure to get up there, right? Okay.
So in these pictures, these are just different examples of the ways we use the iPad. We bring them outside. In the top corner, they went on a nature hike. They got to take pictures of what they thought was interesting, and then they went back to the classroom and they were able to share what they saw outside. We also we use it for one-on-one instruction. I think they're doing, is that the Picasso, yeah, so they're doing the Picasso. And also our speech teachers use it as well in their speech sessions.
Okay, in this classroom, this one's not from this year, but this was a really neat thing that was happening in the Block Center. Typically, blocks get built and then they get put away, right? But with iPad, we have the ability to keep it. This was a really great moment where kids built a car wash. You can see there's a little blue car in there. And they took a picture and they used the markup tool to tell a story and elaborate on it. So it was collaborative, it was social, it was language and literacy, it was storytelling, it was retelling, it was all kinds of standards that we were targeting with one simple activity, as well as fine motor and creativity. So it was really neat to see them telling a story from the Block Center using their iPad. Okay, who's signing? Anybody? Okay, I don't love to keep talking, but if you see the screen in the back, it's a home and a school, and so this teacher is having the children sign in. So who came to school today? Then they count like how many friends are at home, how many friends are at school, who's missing, who's not here, name recognition for their peers. And that teacher has added a feature where you can tap it and it asks the question. So it speaks to the child, so the teacher's not always having to repeat it. So if they need the support, they just push the button without feeling like, I forgot the question. Okay. Jenny.
All right. So as they mentioned with Picasso, a lot of our lessons are inspired by real people. So in this activity, we were inspired by the graphic artist Ricardo Gonzalez. He is an artist from Durango, Mexico, and he specializes in script lettering applied to art design and murals. So when I look at a lesson that's presented to me, I think about, especially regarding technology, what features do I want them to learn how to use, and what do I want them to get out of it? So for this one, I wanted to get 2 things. I wanted them to understand that technology works as good as a piece of paper, sometimes better, because we don't need 20 pieces of paper that all have one line on them. We can erase, we can keep going, save some trees. And the second thing I wanted them to know is that technology can help you manipulate the things that you write in a way that's really creative and powerful. So for this activity, we were also able to differentiate. We were trying to have the kids write their names, which seems pretty simple, but it can look different for a lot of different learners. So for some children, we took a picture of their name and used the markup tool for them to trace it. Other kids got a blank screen with the markup tool and they had to trace that, write it on their own. And other kids, I was just looking for them to make any kind of mark at all that meant their name to them. And then we also learn that sometimes technology can be tricky. Sometimes the tools we want can disappear. Sometimes we end up in a screen that's totally not what we want it to be on. And sometimes we make mistakes, and we have to learn to use that eraser tool in different sizes if we make a big mistake or a small mistake. So overall, this was a really engaging way to get the kids to learn how to do a task that's required of them, but also be inspired by somebody new.
Thank you. Okay, and this is a really big activity for Stowe, not accessible for all kiddos because it wouldn't necessarily be as meaningful for a 3-year-old as it is for someone heading off to kindergarten. But all of our kiddos make rockets. We have a rocket launch you can see on the far left. Mr. Digg helps us. He really taught us how to make them, and he launches them. And then you can see in the middle photo, there's some friends. They brought their iPads outside, so it was as if they were going to work. And we explained to the kiddos that it was our job to collect data on how these rockets were flying. Were they going straight? Were they crooked? Were they going far? Were they going a little shorter? And that was all based on the size of the fins that they chose to use on their rockets. Sounds like a very large concept. It is, because they do this in physics in high school. We just really wanted to expose them to tracking data over time and looking for any trends. So we made a numbers spreadsheet, and the teachers were asking the kiddos, what size fins did you add to your rocket? And then did your rocket go far? Did it go straight? Was it crooked, etc.? And it populated the graph that you can see on there. Now, is it accurate? No, we can't measure the rockets, but is it practice? Yes. Did they experience collecting data, looking at data to see which was the tallest, which was the shortest, which, where they were able to make an inference or determination based on data about the size of the fins on their rocket. The kiddo who was taking a picture, he was documenting it. They had it rolling in the classroom when they were debriefing. The kiddos were also encouraged to document what their rocket looked like using either the shapes that are pre-made or a drawing of their own. And so at the end of the day, it was about looking at things over time to impact their decisions. And this is because we are always intentional. We want it to be natural. There is joy here. Yes, he brought it outside. He was not laying in the grass watching a movie. He was blowing a dandelion. I happened to walk by. It was a day maker because this is what we do at Stowe. Okay, it's Riley's turn. Do you want to talk with Mrs. Curley? You want me to play your movie? Yes? Okay.
Go.
My name is Riley.
Riley, what can you tell me about the iPads in your classroom? What do you do with them?
We draw pictures. We draw Batman. We take photos.
Who gets to take photos? What's the job? Do you remember the big word we used for that job? Look at the camera. Is it Artist of the Week or Photographer of the Week?
Photographer of the Week.
Yep. Do you just take pictures in the classroom? Where do you get to take pictures?
In the hallway.
And where else?
In the classroom.
And where else?
Outside.
Right. Now, can you take pictures of people without asking, or what do you have to do first?
Ask their name.
And then say, can I?
Take your picture.
Right. And if they say no, we say?
Okay.
And then if they say yes, what do we do?
Take a photo.
Oh, nice. Now, when you're Photographer of the Week, what happens during snack on Friday?
We sing.
Right, we sing, and then what happens on the TV?
We share our photos.
Right, you get to see all the pictures. And then what happens? Do you get to pick some for the newsletter?
Yeah.
Yeah, we get to put them on Parent Square.
Really, you did so good. So I have some of Riley's favorite photos. Mrs. Curley and Riley worked together to pick out her 6 favorite. Riley, do you want to tell us about any of them? You don't have to. Do you want Mrs. Curley to talk about them?
So the first picture is,
I think it's on.
the first picture is of our
Rotting pumpkin.
a rotting pumpkin. How do you say that?
You just say it.
Yeah.
We're looking at changes over time.
Yes. The second one, we went on a nature walk and Molly took a selfie. What else do we have? So in our hallway, we have the mirrors, and the kids love to go there and take their pictures there. And pictures of a friend. We took a picture in the front office, and then another picture from our walk.
We love your
Somebody's-
pictures.
Do you want to say anything about your pictures?
No, it's okay. It's okay. Okay, so you have a one-pager that goes with our story, which is right here. And great news, this will be posted to our website so people can look at it. And I have to promise you that when you scroll down and you see Ginny, you will also see K-12. I am working with everybody at Apple. I'm borderline harassing them to add a P to the K because they wrote a story about us. And it says K-12, and we're preschool. So that's our story. That's our success story that was written at the end of this journey. Okay. And that's it.
That's it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
Well, does anybody have any questions, comments? I'm sure that there's probably some.
I've got one.
Go ahead.
When
Mr.
you were back
Janais?
showing,
Mike.
when you were back showing them what buttons to push and stuff like that, when's the next class?
They can teach you so much. So many times, Patty says.
Mr. Ryder?
So first of all, Riley, I just wanted to say thank you for sharing those pictures. Those are very good pictures, and I look forward to seeing which pictures that you took tonight. And I just wanted to say that my favorite part of digital show and tell is that you can now bring in like your pets, or you can take pictures of like your room or your video games, or things like you said that you wouldn't want to bring in and lose, but some things you can't bring in, like your pet, your cat or your dog or your gerbil and guinea pigs and whatever you have going on at home. So I think that's great. So I just wanted to compliment you on your photos and share my favorite part of show and tell digitally.
Ms. Pickett?
So thank you so much for coming tonight. Thank you especially, Riley. This can be an uncomfortable place to be, and you have done a great job representing Stowe Early Learning Center and a great photographer tonight. So thank you so much for coming. I know that there's lots of research around the dangers of technology, and I think you did a really good job tonight of showing that, A, the reality is that technology is part of our life and part of the future, and demonstrated that it's a gift and it's a privilege. So I appreciate you demonstrating how you're using it. Thank you for centering inclusion and access. I think that's also really important to demonstrate that it has powerful ways to include our students in learning and expand. I know we've talked about like gifted and talented. We've talked about how do we support our special needs students? How do we support our multilingual learner students? You showed multiple examples of how this can be a really useful device for all of those things. I also really loved hearing how you use real people, events, and things in learning. I think that sparks curiosity and also supports representation. So thank you for being a leader in this work. I think, you know that I love Stowe, and I'm not surprised that you are a leader. And so I do have a couple wonders or questions. And it's okay if we don't have the answers, but I'm going to ask them if that's okay. So I heard you say 300 Board of Ed students are supported. Do we have a rough number of how many preschoolers are serviced in our town program? On the
Yes, they have 80, I believe, 80 infants through preschool. And then they have 120 kiddos that go before and after school. So they have 220 total enrollment. I hope I'm not misspeaking on their behalf.
No worries. I'm not going to hold you to that number, but I think that's just something interesting for us to consider about how do we partner and expand and provide universal access and opportunities for students. And so thank you for that information. Another few things. One is partnership. So I heard you talk about that you've gotten information from our K-2 schools about things that might be helpful. I love hearing about those things. So I'm wondering how we can support and strengthen that alignment and partnership and intentional use of the devices. I think that's something that our whole district could explore and benefit from. So I'm just going to plant that seed. High school. I saw the rocket. I know we talked about in curriculum some alignment with curricular topics and potential partnership opportunities. I also know we've talked about our ECE courses and how we can partner with Stowe Early Learning Center as a site for our students to be able to And I know there already is partnership, but I'm just talking about strengthening and continuing that work because I think it's vital to growing the field of teachers, but also how we teach. So thank you. And then last, I think of our senior center partnership. I think, Peter, you're not the only one who struggles with technology, even maybe a couple decades younger than you, it's still new to me in many ways. So I do think that there are opportunities, and I think that can be a really entry-level way to say, hey, I can learn from a youngin' and create some awesome opportunities to create connections. So again, thank you. I am excited about this, and you know how much I love all of you. So thank you.
Ms. Acree?
Congratulations, Jackie, to you, your staff, and Riley for being an Apple Distinguished School and all the great work that you and your staff are doing for the students at Stowe. I love your story, from hesitation to innovation, because I'm not great on technology either. And I love all the creative lessons that you presented tonight, you know, from your teachers. Thank you for all you do.
Mr. Kober?
I'll just go ahead and echo the thank you. Obviously, it's great to get success stories and have you guys come in and kind of present this. Riley, and also thank you for coming in, being brave enough to be here while, you know, everybody else is at home. So awesome. We're glad to see it. I guess my one question I'll throw out there is, Ms. Valley, you mentioned that, you know, this is a 3-year designation. So we got 1 year in, we're in year 2 or whatever. Where do you see the program going? Like, what's our next step? What are we focusing on, and how do we get there?
That's a great question. I'm not sure if you can apply again. So that's something I have to look into as well. But I will say that it won't go away for us. So we're about sustainability. We have lots of grants at Stowe. Once we put things in place, we tend to keep them through monitoring, collection of data, and collaboration. We get the training that we need, and then it just becomes part of what we do. So we don't have any intention of letting it go. We're happy to keep going and innovating and seeing what else we can do. And those conversations with Apple will continue to be open as to whether or not you can extend, reapply, et cetera.
Awesome. No, sounds great. And I'm glad to hear that we're looking forward to sustaining it and building on that. So thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Legg?
Sure. Hi, thank you so much for coming. Riley, you take way better selfies than me. I do not take good selfies, so anytime you want to teach me, I haven't mastered that completely yet. But thank you for being here. I really enjoyed your photos. I know it can be a little scary being up here, but we love having you here. That's what we do. This is about the kids all the time. So thank you again. I just wanted to point out a couple things when you were talking about how the kids can do their show and share through their iPad and then watching them present. So I'm going to probably date myself here, but seeing them do this at such a young age is very important, and I'm going to tell you why. I was able to take a class at work, and I was the oldest person there. Everybody was in their 20s, and they were very technologically savvy, like throwing together PowerPoints, and we had to give these group presentations. So I'm nervous here because I have to present, and I'm amongst all these 20-year-olds that like were saying, oh, you can do this with PowerPoint, you can do that. And then you're getting it graded on it. So after the presentation, the person that was grading us said that what I had versus the constituents is that I was able to speak conversationally. And I think part of that is because we get so buried in technology, we're losing that aspect of being able to be conversational when we're presenting or working on something. And I think that's lost, but I see us like gaining that again at such an early age. I also know that public speaking is very, very scary, and that this can be really helpful for the younger kids that are a little shy and don't necessarily want to stand up. And there's ways I'm sure that you're working with those shyer kids to get them feel empowered to do their show and share. This is a little bit funny. When you said that the kids can take the pictures of their blocks, again, I'm dating myself. I thought, oh, so you know how to put it back together the same way. 100%. Which was not what you do, but that's because kids are way better with memories. But your idea was way better. So I thought that was interesting to, like you said, tell a story, retelling. And then I actually typed here, can put things back together the way they were. one of the things I wanted to also say is that when my kids went to Stowe, and it's funny to see Miss Towers back at Stowe, we used to do an egg drop where Miss Berkey, the gym teacher, would go all the way up on the ladder, and the kids would make crates to see whose egg would survive the drop. And so now we're doing rockets. And I'm sure there was data collection back then, but it's interesting to see how much the curriculum has grown since those egg drop days, because now we're doing rockets, and we're doing data collection, and we're doing it with technology. I also want to add that I think helping students and peer-to-peer involvement is integral. So I love those steps to collaborate all the way up through the district. I had also, speaking of technology, Peter, the community service class at the high school, I had asked at some point in time, could they go to the senior center and talk about technology, show seniors how to set up their iPads or their new phones. And to Phil's point, seeing that this is a 3-year grant, in 3 years it'll be interesting to see what we have in technology advancements and what a new grant would look like and what you guys are striving for, because I have no doubt in my mind that you guys are always going to be striving. So thank you all for being here tonight, and congratulations.
Dr. Callan?
Well, first, Riley, I am very impressed with your pictures. I think that those are the most wonderful pictures, and you're a much better photographer than I could ever be, so congratulations. So, I think, basically, at this point, I'm just reinforcing a point that Tina just made. I think in education, there's this kind of dialectical opposition between people who really don't want technology because they think it's really bad for kids, and the other people who feel that it's the answer to all of our problems. And I think the answer is, a perfect, the answer is to try to find a balance. But I think what really impressed me most about your presentation was this idea of engagement, engaging this child in what he's doing, but he also engaging other students as well, so that this can be an incredible tool for bringing people together. And this is where the groundwork is laid. So when children develop an appreciation for technology as a way of engaging rather than isolating ourselves, I think this is an extremely promising development. So I'll stop there.
Thank you. Okay. Anybody else? Would you like to go again, Mr.
You're talking about technology at Stowe. Is room 1 still there? That used to be my room.
Anybody else?
Well, that's when it was a cave.
Anybody else? Okay, well, I would just like to say Stowe has always been and always will be my Disneyland. You guys are incredible educators over there. You think way outside of the box. Thank you for still taking the kids outside. It's really great to see the nature pictures too. I was really impressed when I went in and I saw them using the iPads because they had a storefront and they were selling goods to each other. So that was a really great way to incorporate math. So what you guys are doing is obviously excellent, and obviously you're an Apple Distinguished School for a reason. My one question is, does Apple ever reach out to you to send educators out to teach others how you've done this?
So it's timely that you asked that. We are planning an Apple open house for other educators around the state in this local area, some in Massachusetts, because they want to learn from us. So we have an Apple connection. I say connection because he has a very long title and I can never remember it. But he visits, and part of being Apple Distinguished is sharing what you do with others. And so we did the success story, that's a share. We've presented at some conferences. One of our teachers, who's not here tonight, where the show and tell was from her classroom, she presented on a webinar about literacy using iPad, which was amazing. But on December 16th, might be wrong on the date, I'll get it to you. we will be having an open house just in the morning where other educators are going to come in and they're going to hear about our school. They'll walk through our classrooms with a reasonable amount of people so that we're not disrupting, and they will learn what we're doing so that they can ask questions and hopefully replicate it in some capacity that works for them.
Excellent. Awesome. And Miss Riley, you your pictures were phenomenal. My favorite one out of all of them was definitely the mirror one. I thought that was pretty cool. It looked like you were like a fly's eye view of the situation. You did a great job. Thank you for taking the pictures tonight, too. I appreciate you. Anybody else?
Question. This is nice with all the technology and stuff like that. Do the kids get a chance during the day to go out and play and run around? And they do?
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes. So they, like, when Riley took those pictures, she was going out for a nature walk. Some kids have their iPad, some kids don't. They can take a picture or collect real items. Am I saying that right, Mrs. Curley? They could do it together. But they go out without the iPad when they go outside to play.
So there's
Yes.
interaction. Okay.
Yes.
Wonderful. Yes.
I have a housekeeping note.
Go for it.
I was just going to make a motion if we could move up item 11A to 6B while we have our guests here, so we could discuss the Head Start grants.
Perfect. Do I have a second?
I do. Second.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Ryder, second by Ms. LeBlanc. Can I have, is there any discussion on the motion? Riley can go. I don't think she wants to
So
stay.
Riley's going to go, and Mrs. Curley, Mrs. Prentice,
Yes.
Mrs. Towers, and we're going to have two other people come up. Yes.
All right. Can I have a show of hands? Those in favor of moving the items up on the agenda? So 9 in favor, 9 against. Perfect. Okay. Well, thank you for coming, ladies. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you, Riley. Thanks, Riley's mom and dad.
All right, so we moved A up. So this is going to be approval of the fiscal year 24-25 Head Start grants. Do you want to
Yes.
introduce anything else? Nope, okay.
Ready to go? Okay, we're ready to go.
I dare not get in Jacqueline's way. You can go ahead.
Okay, so Head Start, you approved the baseline grant application last November. This is just the year 2 continuation application for funding. I'm just real quick going to go over the goals and objectives and then share with you the budget, and then that's really it for this. So the first goal, now keep in mind, our program is a delegate of Manchester Head Start, which is part of Manchester Public Schools. So we went through a strategic planning process with Manchester in writing our goals so that we were more aligned for monitoring purposes. I wish I could tell you why we are a delegate of Manchester. It's how it was when I arrived. I can get you the backstory somehow, somewhere, if you need it. So Manchester and Enfield Head Start programs will elevate and sustain systems and processes through access to resources and connections in the community that empower our families. So Head Start is all about partnerships. It's all about different buckets. So it's health with our health manager, Nurse Jen, education with our education and disabilities manager, Shannon, and family support. I'm going to call it family and community engagement and support with Kelly Bowles, our family support manager. So this goal is completely dedicated to partnerships. Our year 1, this is just a little progress report. I'm going to give a shout out to Kite. I liked their progress report, so they let me borrow the template. We are on the way to meeting our year 1 objective. The reason it's not met yet is because our year 1 ends in February and year 2 starts in March. It does not follow the regular school calendar or the fiscal calendar to add complications to Stowe. It's not really complicated, it just we're on a different timeline. So we are on our way to meeting that. So Kelly, do you want to talk about, so we're creating a process for reviewing and revising those partnerships, and Kelly's going to talk about our thinking around it.
Okay, so when the family support staff meets with families, we set outcome measurements with the families in order to come up with a goal and action steps for that family to meet during that year. And it starts in the summer, and it moves through, and we're going to see in the next slide the different crosswalk of family needs. So the first thing we did was the family support staff came up with the different community partners that we use with the goals that we've set for the families through their family outcome measurements. And as you can see, as we move forward with our goal that Ms. Valley discussed earlier, is we want to come up with some new family partnerships. Understand that we do refer our families to many of these new community partners that we want to have MOUs with. Even though they're new, we still have always referred them. We just want to have an MOU with them. So that's why that's the new family partnership. But as you can see, so far we have a whole list of different goals that have already been set for our families this year with their outcome measurements. And then we sit with the family again mid-year, and we check to see how their goal process is with action steps from their referrals with our community partners. And then as the springtime comes, we will meet with the family again, and we will find how they've improved in their outcome measurements, if they've reached their goals, if their action steps work. And then we would also do a survey to find out if the referrals that we made to the community partners were beneficial for the family in meeting their goal.
Thanks, Kelly. So speaking of those informal partnerships that we haven't formalized yet, we have two very exciting ones. And Nurse Jen can fill you in a little bit. I'll give a quick overview. We had an opportunity through our self-assessment process to learn from Dr. Kalnin about the residency program at CCMC. So we were able to get in touch with them, and we are now a partner to the Connecticut Children's Medical Center. They send a resident to our school to work with Nurse Jen, but beyond the medical piece and the school side of nursing, these are studying pediatricians. If they want to work with the littlest, they need to be able to have an experience where they can understand different levels of development, the special education process, developmental screenings, family play groups and engagement. So when they come to Stowe, all of those things are available to them. And we were also able to add a flu clinic at Stowe, but not just one, 3. Go ahead.
Yes, we had we partnered with the North Central Health Department, and we scheduled 3 flu vaccine clinics, one back in September 29th, which had a pretty good outcome. However, it's still early in the year. Our November flu clinic, which was last week, was a huge success. We had not only students, but families and staff that all came to the trailer in the back of our school and got their flu shots. I'm not sure you all know, but it is a requirement for preschool that our entire building has to be vaccinated. So it's a huge tracking for me. But we're doing great. We have another one scheduled on December 4th, 12:30 to 3:30. So feel free to come get your flu shot if you haven't gotten it yet. And like Jacqueline said earlier, we have had the residents from CCMC come. Thank you, Dr. Callan, again, for that suggestion, because we've had, I believe, 3 residents come and spend about 3 hours with me, where I give them a tour of the building. I show them what I do on a daily basis in the nurse's office and what my role is as the health manager. We visited classrooms, we visited speech and occupational therapy and physical therapy, and they were so impressed with our building, and we're so happy to be part of our partnership as well. So we see that as a huge celebration. So, yes.
Thanks, guys. So our second goal, again, is about getting our stakeholders to commit into a collective investment in contributing to our families' overall well-being and self-sufficiency. So this year 1 objective was really about creating an impact survey and creating pathways for families. So when the family advocates are setting family goals, they created 4 partner pathways. So if you set a goal around acquiring a new skill, you would go into the education and career path, where we will list all of our partners. Now, some of these are existing partners, some are informal, and we have a lot more to add. And we learn about new partners all the time. So families' goals will be tailored from the needs assessment into these 4 pathways. Of course, if they have a goal that doesn't fit into one of these, we will still refer them to where they need to go. But these pathways were designed to help the family advocate really focus the support that they're giving families. The next goal is connected to our equity statement. So we will position our work to enhance equity by creating an environment where all are welcomed, accepted, respected, and supported. Stowe is an extremely diverse building. And so ultimately, we're just trying to look at the systems we have in place where assessment and screening, attendance, et cetera, are concerned to make sure that all of our kiddos are getting what they need to achieve their best self. And Shannon, this one after this will be you. We have to have a school readiness goal for Head Start. This is a lot of language. It means a lot to the people who work at Stowe. It means probably nothing to anybody looking at it. It basically says that we will collect data 3 times a year using what we call the Developmental Desired Results Assessment. And so we use that tool. It has to be research-based for Head Start. We use it to look at all areas of development, language and literacy, fine and gross motor, physical health and development, math, etc. And we take a peek at where kids are, and it allows us to rate them for their own level of development. So if I am 36 months old, but I am in need of a little support, I might be marked in the 24-month range, right? With the understanding that my teachers are going to work to help me grow a year, because that's a reasonable thing to do in a school year. So we just collected our first round of benchmark data. We look for all kiddos, no matter what their age is, to make a year's worth of progress. You will see on here it says 85%. We always strive for 100, but 85% is how we wrote it with our partners in Manchester. So we are on the way. You will get data once we have it. It's in the system, and it's coming.
So this is just a peek into our classroom, what the kids have been doing. We just finished up Unit 1, which is exploring inquiry. And now we're into steering and engineering, where the children's focus on building sturdy structures. So these are their performance tasks that they did at the end of Unit 1. It was trying to balance the letters without falling out of a tree. They were able to use a variety of materials, but that performance task led into Unit 2, which we are in now, on how to build sturdy structures, what shape is the strongest. So we're building upon each unit their skills, and they're carrying it over into all the units throughout the year.
Okay, now for the fun part, the budget. It's my favorite. So the Office of Health and Human Services, through Manchester Public Schools, says that Enfield Head Start can have $1,097,885 to serve 102 students. They additionally will give us $11,241 for training and technical assistance. It has to be spent on that. We can't move it to a different bucket. We use some of it for iPad coaching. We might use it for work with the Gazelle Institute. We have a book study this year that is being facilitated by someone through CREC. Those are examples of some of our training and technical assistance. And then there is a requirement for a 20% non-federal share, and that will total $277,293. We have 25 employees, and so the budget you have up here is broken down by personnel in the child health and development range, family and community partnership personnel, program design and management, fringe benefits on the next page, equipment, supplies, contractual, and other. Now, this budget is not something that I make. This comes right out of a system called HSES. I populate the numbers that I'm given, and then I work with the business office to allocate based on the numbers that they have. So you have a more detailed breakdown of the non-federal share. So I will say that we are extremely fortunate to be part of a school system where all of our teachers are Connecticut State certified. However, they do cost more to have. We also benefit from busing support, special education supports that are existing in our schools. So the non-federal share that is outlined in this budget that you have is just going to salaries and fringe benefits. So it's broken down here by position. So for example, we have 2 Head Start teachers that are paid for out 31% out of the federal Head Start grant, 27% comes out of that non-federal share from the board, and then 42% comes from a state Head Start grant. Other employees, it's broken down differently because they're not part of the state grant, or they don't have another grant that's listed on there, which is the MSEP grant, which is a STEAM grant. So if you look at myself, Shannon, and Kathy, we are funded out of all 3. And this just gives you a breakdown of where those are coming from. Does that make sense? Okay, yes.
You got it.
Okay. And there's our friends. So I'm happy to answer questions about the budget if you have them.
Anybody have any questions?
I think so.
Okay.
Your teachers,
Yes,
are they part of the ETA?
they are.
Okay.
Yes. They're at that contract, yes. And our teacher assistants, so you'll see them listed as well, teacher aides. They are not part of a union, but they mirror the para contract. So if you're looking for numbers.
Go ahead, Ms. Blank. I have just a few quick questions. So I saw that it said Enfield Fire Department. Is it just Enfield Fire Department, or is it all fire departments, or is just like Enfield Fire Department is like your partner?
So they are a very strong partner. So Don Ellis sits
Yes.
on our
Right.
policy committee,
Right.
and he and his team come in and do classroom lessons. They partner with Shannon. So they will actually be coming in soon to talk about how they stabilize a structure that's burning before they go in, which directly aligns to what they're doing in their classroom.
Yes, of course.
Yes. So we're not opposed to other
Mr.
fire.
Ellis, right.
We're not opposed to other fire partners.
Chief Ellis, right. But yeah, he's
just
always been,
yeah.
with book buddies and everything. He's wonderful. The other quick question, or the other thought I saw is the investment in parent education. I think that is so important. The other thing I just wanted to add really quickly is, and this made me think of the prior presentation, is you said it's a very diverse building, so I'm assuming that there's language barriers that you're dealing with, and is your technology helpful with the language barriers, especially with the young learners?
Yes. So we can use translation apps on there, and kiddos can speak into the iPad, and it can translate to staff. It also helps families, and we also have a lot of staff who speak more than one language,
Right.
and so when they're doing training such as a child development associate, which would allow them to meet the Head Start criteria for being a teacher assistant, they can use the translation right in all of their reading, so it's easier for them.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I have to tell a quick story, and then we will leave, I promise. The picture in the top, the kids were cutting a pumpkin. The teacher washed all the utensils in the sink, and that sprouted in the sink from a pumpkin seed. And the teacher took it out, and now it's like this big. But she was so excited, so I'm sharing the story.
That's awesome.
Okay.
Dr. Cowan.
First, Charlotte and Tina, I'd like to thank you both for giving me the privilege of serving as the board liaison with Stowe. I found it an extremely fulfilling experience over the last 3.5 years. And it's, as a 76-year-old pediatrician, I'm still learning so many wonderful things about kids, little kids especially, and how much fun they can be too. So, Jacqueline, as the board liaison to Head Start, I've been able to observe firsthand the work being done at Stowe, and I just have to take this moment to say it is really exceptional, not only on your part, but on the part of all of the staff and all the teachers. It's just a wonderful thing to behold. I was particularly impressed with the highly organized and comprehensive approach to the 5-year plan. I guess it was last spring, wasn't it? And it was really, really impressive to note the inclusion of community stakeholders, prioritizing involvement of families. Now, I know that that's a requirement of the federal government, but I think the way you managed it was particularly noteworthy because you really did go the extra distance to involve stakeholders. And in everything you do, in everything that the whole staff at Stowe does, families are always included. And I remember Peg Oliviera what was it, a year ago? Anyways, one of the points she made, and it was a very powerful one, is whenever you try to engage families in, whenever you develop a program, a school-based program, it's going to fail unless you engage families. You've got to have parents at the seat, no matter what you do. And I think Stowe involves the parents in just about every activity that I've noted. So, congratulations. Could you comment, well, you already did. You talked about the flu clinic, which is fantastic. One of the side benefits of the flu clinic is it might serve as a model to other schools. I'm not sure, but I don't think any other school has a flu clinic in Enfield. So that might be something other schools might take note of. And this could also be the beginning of school-based medical services in Enfield. A very, very modest beginning, but I think it could lead to bigger things. If we can do a flu clinic, we can do other things. With respect to the collaboration with CCMC, I want to reserve a few of my comments later because I don't want to hold you guys up. But Suffice it to say, this is a real breakthrough for not only for us, but for the Connecticut Children's. And I'll get into the reasons for that a little bit later when it's my turn to comment. One good thing about this program, though, that I will mention is I'm hoping as more and more residents pass through during their rotation at Stowe, they might decide that Enfield would be a nice place to come to practice. And we do have a shortage of pediatricians in town, and this would be a nice way of welcoming them in. So just something to think about. There are two challenges that I thought you might want to address. One is the issue of absenteeism with respect to the Hispanic community. And maybe you could answer that right now. How are we addressing that? Or
So that came out of our self-assessment last year, right? We looked at our attendance data and we learned that 50% of our chronically absent students are Hispanic. And so we came up with strategies and ideas in terms of how we communicate with families around a safe return to school, what we're doing in school to prevent illness, as well as making sure they have access to transportation if that's the barrier. We've learned some things that some of our families live in multi-generational households and they don't want to get the rest of the family sick when their child is sick, so they may stay out for a longer period of time. And so between Nurse Jen, who's making all the phone calls, our family advocates, our teachers, myself, we're communicating with them in a positive way to understand the reasoning for the extended absences and try and remedy it, as well as creating communication in both languages, which Parent Square has helped.
Great. In the last page of the program improvement plan, which I'm sure you have in your pocket.
I don't, but it's up here.
And you don't have to answer this question right now. You know,
It's okay.
But it is something that I noted. There was a dramatic improvement regarding 4-year-old children in meeting or exceeding the standards for the developmental age, but in no instance did performance exceed the break point of 85%. So I guess my question is, how meaningful is this, and do you have any plans to address it, or is it even necessary to address it at this point? And why the difference in performance between 3-year-olds and 4-year-olds?
So Shannon and I look at data a lot, and that is one of the things that we noted when we were putting that together. Do we include it? Do we not? In an effort to be transparent, we included it, but it wasn't inclusive of the third marking period, which would have shown all that growth. So we've been talking a lot about the timing. So they take their first round of benchmark assessments now. It ends roughly last week, right? So beginning of November, and their next one is due in February. So there's not a lot of time to show that growth. And so the assessment occurs before June. So we didn't, yes.
Okay.
So yes, there is a strong commitment to making sure that the data reflects that when we write it. And looking at the 3- and 4-year-olds, we look at that all the time and just see why is there a difference in the rate of growth or what's happening. This past cycle, so that data, there were a lot of 3-year-olds with individual education plans, and so their growth may look a little bit different in terms of how quickly they're making it or what they're being measured on.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. And Nurse Jen, you're fantastic.
I think one is just looking at the budget. We are lucky in Enfield to receive this money. It is clear that this funding provides so many opportunities for students and for us to support programming that we know that if we can catch kids early and support them early, their outcomes long term are better. And actually, I'm going to propose a study here in Enfield because I think we have a prime test sample is really following our eaglets in data and seeing students who have had 3- and 4-year-old programming at Stowe and what has that impact been compared to students who have not had that programming. Because I think we have a great control environment here. Those are our students. Their student ID numbers remain the same. You automatically enroll them in our schools for us if you are a Stowe student. So I think there's powerful data in the work that you're doing, and I thank you for being willing to do this work. I would love to know more about the history of partnership with Manchester. I just wonder if there's opportunities for us to stand on our own, if that even matters or not, or if it benefits us to be in a partnership. So I would just like to explore and know more about that. A couple things I do want to ask a little bit about. One is I remember that crosswalk from the self-assessment. Love what it's turned into. Love the pathways. I'm thinking of one of our last board presentations was LEAP Home Visiting. I wonder if there's an opportunity to get our programming of our LEAP Home visitors and our Head Start staff together to talk about resources, what you've learned, what you know. Like Stowe's been doing home visiting for a long time, and you have a lot of resources, you have a lot of partnerships, and I think there's some alignment and support. I know there's some slightly different models and approaches and purposes for those programs, but I also think there's opportunities to support each other. So I would encourage us to kind of maybe do some partnership in district around LEAP and what Head Start is doing. The flu clinic you mentioned on the 4th, you said, is that open to the community, like truly staff, families, other?
It really is. I mean, they said they would take walk-ins, just bring your insurance card. You know, there's a sign up, but not a lot of people sign up for it, so we always encourage, you know, even if it's a walk-in, come on in.
So is there a way that we can share the flu clinic information, especially I know with EPS staff? I know we used to, I think, host a flu clinic for staff, and I don't think we did it this year. So I had some staff reach out saying, hey, that used to be a nice perk. And so there is an opportunity to do it. So I'm wondering if there's a way that we can share that information.
Yeah, it's December 4th from 12:30 to 3:30. We chose that because it was an early release.
Ooh,
And
12:30 to
figured
3:30.
parents were coming anyways to come get their kids, and usually the busiest part for us with the kids is 12:30 to 1:30. So truly those last 2 hours are pretty well open for, you know.
Just thinking staff, when they get out of work, like if we could extend it, we can.
No worries. I was just wondering if there's a way we can get that information out. Thank you. I am incredibly proud of the Head Start program. It's truly a model for early childhood learning, and you guys do a spectacular job.
You're not teaching the kids to give the shots, are you?
I don't even have to give them. So I'm still a nice guy.
Not sure they'd want to take photos with that on their iPads either. Go ahead, Mr. Kober.
Thank you. So just a question, Ms. Melly, you're probably poised to answer this. I know you mentioned the fiscal year for the Head Start budget is off. It's March 1st to end of February 26th, so that's kind of what we're looking at here. Do you know, or can you speak to, like, have the numbers changed from the current year? Obviously, that progress report is for the current year we're evaluating. So looking at next year's budget, is there more grant money that we can apply for? Like, you know, is there a raise for mandated and contractual increases for the staff? Is the number of employees changing? Is the enrollment projected, since this is going to cover next year? Could you kind of maybe speak to that a little?
As best I can. So our enrollment stays at 102, so I can tell you that. We are very comfortable and fully staffed and happy about it, so we're doing fine with staffing, so I don't anticipate needing to hire more staff unless somebody leaves to replace them, so those will be accounted for. You asked
And then also just like last year, like was this for the 24 to 25 Head Start? Is this the same dollar amount or is
Same dollar amount, yes.
Okay.
It does. We do get a cost of living adjustment that you guys always get. It comes out sometime in the year, and it always goes towards salaries.
Okay, so there is at least a COLA that
benefit.
covers
There
the
is a
contractual
COLA,
increases,
yes.
because I know Mr. Janitis asked about the union membership, so if they do
there
have
is a COLA that comes in. It's determined by the federal government. They send it to Manchester. Manchester prorates it based on the seats. So they have, I believe, 156 seats. So they keep a higher percentage of the total funding, and then we get it for 102 kiddos. It's still based on the number of kids. So that's how they percentage it. And then we also sometimes get quality improvement money that's wrapped into that COLA. So when I receive it, you'll receive it because you have to look at it first.
Okay, no, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That covers it. Thank you.
Okay.
Anybody else? I had just a couple questions. Do you know off the top of your head how many different languages are spoken at Stowe?
I usually do know this.
It's okay if you don't, or a rough guess.
It's 16? I believe 16, yes.
16. Wow.
It changes because we only have them for a little bit of time, yes. And we have a new one this year. We have sign language this year, so that's really cool.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
awesome. Awesome. Do we have anybody in the building who knows sign
Yeah.
language? Yeah, we do. That's awesome. Awesome. Very cool. And then the only other thing, I know we've had this discussion a long time ago, but the offer still stands if you want data from first readers as to how many kids who exit Stowe get their first readers during kindergarten. I'm still more than happy to provide you with that information.
We would love
if it's a helpful thing.
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
So, anything else? Okay. Thank you. Now we need a motion to approve. Hold on. Let me get here.
Fiscal year.
The fiscal year 25-26 Head Start grants and approval statements as presented.
So moved.
A motion made by Dr.
Second.
Kalman, second by Ms. LeBlanc. Any discussion? No discussion. Sensing none. Can I have a roll call vote, please, Kathy?
Mrs. Pickett?
Proudly, yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Dr. Kalman?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Janitis?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Great. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Jacqueline, and
Thank you.
everybody else. We really appreciate it. All right, so moving on to number 7, Superintendent's Report. Mr. Macchio.
Sorry. Let's start off with the student representative update. Well, Izzy, you want to start us?
Good evening, everyone. So first things first, I wanted to start out with a fundraiser that we're starting. NHS is having a cans and bottle drive on November 24th from 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. in front of EHS. It's going to be right in front of the school. So last year, we also had the same thing. You just basically drop off cans, bottles in a bag, and you just basically leave them there for us. We go through it. All the proceeds will go to Enfield Loaves and Fishes this year. We also have an upcoming Lamplighters play on the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th. It's just the regular play. The musical is in the spring. I do not know what play that they're doing because they're keeping it very secret this year. But I hope it's good. I will be going, so. We also have the blood drive coming up on the 19th of December, as well as we have our ski club signups that are now open. So if you guys know a student that's interested in joining ski club, they're gonna wanna get their information as soon as possible in Mrs. Bender's room. We also have a half day this upcoming Wednesday, so tomorrow, and Monday the 18th. I know he's gonna go over that, but I also wanted to say that. We also, on Monday the 18th, when we have that half day, we're gonna have our volleyball tournament. And we will also have on the 18th, a FAFSA help kind of conference at 10 a.m. So if anyone's in need of like anything regarding FAFSA, they need some information on it, it's gonna be in it used to be the Career Center, now it's the Guidance Office, but it's where the Career Center used to be. We also have Career Day on November 27th. So if anyone we still are looking for volunteers for people to talk about their careers. I know a few years ago, they had like a baker and a librarian and someone in finance. So we're still looking for those people. We also have, this isn't really Enfield High related, but it's for our seniors. Anyone that's interested in as NunTech, they have an open house on November 14th. For anyone that was interested, because I know some students did a dual enrollment program. Also, we have 2 days that are district-wide for wearing special colors. On November 14th, wear blue for diabetes awareness, and on the 22nd, we're doing red for heart health awareness. I'm excited to bust out my colors.
All right, so the National Honor Society induction happened last Wednesday, and 43 new members were inducted, and Izzy was present as the vice president of the Enfield High chapter. The class of 2025 has a couple fundraisers coming up. There's going to be a Red Robin night, and it's like a 25%, so if you just go and you mention the fundraiser, 25% of your sales goes to them, and that will be on November 26th, happening all day. And they will also be having a pancake breakfast on December 14th, which is a Saturday, in the Enfield High cafeteria from 9 to 11 a.m. And there will be raffles and a visit from Santa. Parent-teacher conferences will be happening on Thursday from 6 to 8:30. Our Enfield High football team had an outstanding victory on Friday night. They won in overtime, 42-41, so that was a big win for them. Very exciting. And on Sunday, I believe, a few members of our Unified Sports program went to Gillette Stadium to compete in a tournament. I believe they won 3rd place. So yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Clarifying question. Is the pancake breakfast, is the pancake breakfast the Rachel Challenge one, or is that just for?
Izzy might have the information for that, because.
I believe that's for our 2025, like our class officers.
Okay.
I think it'll go to our senior activities, because we're still pretty high on that money range.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, go ahead.
You're the boss. I'm going to skip over B, although Izzy did a much better job talking about the early release days and student conferences. Mr. Longy and I are wondering when we're getting our invite as part of the volleyball tournament, just throwing it out there. The Cape Caps Convention is coming up this Friday and Saturday. As you may be aware, I'll be attending along with Michelle Middleton will be there on Friday with me. And Julie Carroll is actually going to be presenting on Saturday morning. So I'm going to be doing the introduction for her. So she'll be presenting down there. Excited to let you know that both of our student representatives are going to be coming down on Saturday morning, so they'll be able to take part in some of the student functions, spend some time with their peers, attend different workshops, and really just tie everything back in, make some connections for them related to their student rep work. Before I move on to the EPS update, which is going to be the enrollment report, just in terms of the EPS update outside of enrollment report, still getting through all of the staff meet and greets. Was a little curtailed on Friday when I got a little sick on Thursday afternoon. You can still hear it now, but we're finishing those up in terms of the staff. Still have a couple of different schools that I need to meet with some students, and I'll be doing some lunches with them. This Thursday morning, I'll be attending the Enfield High School academic walkthrough. So that will be exciting to be able to get into classrooms and hear the conversations and discussions with them. And then Izzy was nice enough to be able to invite me on the 18th. I'm going to be attending the Black and Brown Student Union meeting. So I'll be able to have some discussions there as well. On to the enrollment report. So you have in your packet the number breakdown, if you will. As you can see in the packet, and this is all as of October 1st. So we choose October 1st because that is your PSIS state submission date that we're required to send into. So as of this report, you had 4,678 students coming into the district. We have 15 students as of this report that are outplaced at private facilities. So there's 4,693 total PSIS collection records. We have more students than that you are responsible for. So I have some additional information that I've provided to you that will take you through as well. If we wanted to look at that breakdown, just over 2,000 students that are considered part of the elementary schools, whether it be the 244 students that we just talked about in terms of pre-K, but then you have your breakdown in terms of kindergarten, first, second, all the way through fifth grade. We do have a large fifth grade that will be transferring up next year into the sixth grade. So 305 students will be going into sixth grade next year, assuming these numbers stay exactly the same. 283 is our current sixth grade. And I think more importantly, as you look at that eighth grade class of 370, which will be transitioning up to the high school. So you will see a large class leaving the middle school, but you're going to be having a little larger of a class entering in. So their overall numbers next year are anticipated to go down, but it's just as those bubble classes sort of move their way through the system. And at the high school for next year, you're going to have very little change. 370 kids coming in, 326 are anticipated to graduate, so you will have a little bit larger class up at the high school as well. This will be a report that over the years, the longer I'm here, we're going to sort of transition this and edit this so that you can track it over time so that we can see our overall growth in terms of the district. On to the 2 additional pieces of paper. And I know there were copies over here for anybody who's in the audience that wants them. So we'll start with the one that's more of the words, if you will. The overview of your student enrollment. So again, as I said earlier on the sheet of paper that breaks down the numbers by grade, we have 4,678 kids that attend the Enfield Public Schools. That number does include 2 kids that paid tuition to attend various programs in the district. So those are students that are not Enfield students, but pay the Enfield Public Schools to enter into our programs. This would be an item that should we begin to talk about modernization and facility changes and things of that nature, that would be a number that I would expect to drastically increase if we're talking about Eagle House, for example. Students outplaced in private facilities, I already told you 15, so the 4693 ties off to the sheet of paper. The second section of this is the one I really want you to be aware of. So I tried to break it down in terms of these are all kids that attend school outside of Enfield and that we do not report to the State Department of Education. So this is all in addition to the 4,693. So you have 10 students that are outplaced in public facilities, so special education students who we place into a public facility. So because they're in a public facility, that facility will report them to the State Department, not us. You have 31 students that are attending one of the 2 state technical schools, and the 31 is Cheney Tech, is the breakdown there, and we're going to get into that a little bit more in the future. You have 14 students that attend AI Prince Tech. And the reason I had to break them out is we're responsible for transportation to Cheney Tech. You pay for the buses. For the AI Prince Tech, the kids still get a bus. They're bused by East Windsor, but Hartford reimburses them for that. So there's no cost to us for those kids that go to AI Prince Tech. If you look at the Regional Agri-Science Center, the students we have are attending Suffield. You have 27 students that currently attend that program, and you're paying for their tuition there. You're paying for transportation to get them there, and obviously any special education services or additional services that they require, we're responsible for. Then you get into 210 additional students. Those 210 kids are all magnet school programs. And so for magnet school students, we're not required to provide transportation to those schools. Because as you can see on the other sheet of paper, that's a lot of different places that we send kids to, or that we have kids that are attending. So the 210 students, you're required to pay for tuition. One of the line items in the budget for this current year that we were super conservative with was the tuition related to magnet school. There was a very late legislative agreement that we are only required to pay up to 58% of what those magnet schools can charge us. We had fully funded that position, so you will see some savings there or some surplus in that line item. Of the 210 kids, you are responsible for payment for 195 of them. So that's where the other sheet of paper is going to help you a little bit more. Most of the Hartford Public School magnet programs do not charge tuition. Only Great Path Academy will charge us for tuition. But there's a number of them, for example, Sports and Medical Sciences Academy, Pathways Academy of Technology and Design, everything with an asterisk on that other sheet of paper, we do not receive a tuition invoice for. So you're invoiced for 195 out of the 210 students from Enfield that attend magnet schools. And you add up that entire middle section, you have 292 kids who are from Enfield, could be potentially attending Enfield Public Schools, but with the choice programs that are offered, available in the state, they're going to other locations. You are, I just point this out, that we are, as a board and as a town, still fiscally responsible for them. And it's not a small chunk of change. So we do break that out in the budget, but I just sort of want to have some context for you in terms of where those dollars are actually coming from. So this is, again, as of right now. What we will do as we move forward and leapfrog to next year's budget is we'll look at, obviously, you have the breakdown by grade there for you. How many kids are graduating out? How many kids do we anticipate coming in? And then we'll do our best estimates that we can as we budget moving forward. The incredibly shocking number is we have 154 students, correct, Kathy? Current? Actually, it's up from October 1.
156 today.
Right. As of today, 156 students whose parents have chosen to homeschool them. And again, per the state of Connecticut, they were not even required, but they let us know that they've chosen this pathway. We don't have an oversight regarding any portion of that. We don't have curriculum oversight. We don't have assessment oversight. It's just their personal decision that they wish to homeschool their children. And then we have 7 additional students that are attending other public schools, whether that's their parents chose to pay a tuition to that school, whether it's a foster placement or a courtesy placement. So you have 161 kids that you have no financial responsibility for that are not attending our schools. However, I mean, many times I'll hear, my previous district as well as this one, why is enrollment going down? Why is enrollment going down? Well, enrollment's going down because kids have more choices than ever in terms of where they want to go, what they want to do, what type of school they wish to attend. We're still financially responsible for much of that, but when you look at the 4,693, if you were to add together all of those other kids, Enfield's again well over 5,000 kids. So it's very hard to compare the Enfield of 15, 20 years ago in terms of enrollment numbers to that of Enfield right now. And it's because of this variety of choice that they have. And choice is good. You won't hear me say anything. I used to be a principal at an agri-science school. It's outstanding work. Those kids are locked into agri-science. You can get a great job after coming out of a tech school, and you can make real good money. But I just want you to have an understanding in terms of there's the 4,693 here in the district. There's also a whole other group of kids that we always need to be cognizant of. And again, this other sheet of paper here with the grid just gives you the breakdown in terms of grade level and the very long list of magnet schools that are attended by our kids. Any questions that I can answer related to the enrollment report?
Mr. Janitis.
The homeschool children, are they allowed to participate in any activities in sports?
CIAC does not allow homeschool students to participate.
Really? How about like plays and stuff like that? Plays, band, whatever.
Yeah. Do you want to?
We've always allowed that. Extracurricular activities we've allowed.
Okay, just not sports.
And again, that's a rule that comes straight out of CIAC.
Ms. Pickett?
Thank you, Steve, so much for this comprehensive information. I think it's really helpful to have this information when we're making decisions, and it does impact the budget. So I think making those connections are important. I do have a few clarifying questions and just a couple comments. You mentioned we have 2 students that pay tuition. Do you know what we charge for students to attend here?
I know,
if you don't know on the spot.
it depends on the specific program. So if it's one of our special education programs, I want to say, don't hold me to this, but I want to say the number that I believe I saw today was $77,000 for tuition.
Perfect. Thank you. And again, I don't expect you actually to have answers.
I can get you the definitive numbers,
Yep.
and I will put it into your weekly update.
Yep. Well, just thinking, because my next question was going to go to the difference in paying for transportation for those technical schools. So you mentioned we pay for the Cheney 31 students, but we have a partnership with East Windsor who gets reimbursed by CREC for those 14 to AI Prince. Do you know why we have that arrangement for AI Prince, but Cheney we are like left on the hook for?
I believe we're identified, Cheney is our identified regional technical school. So the students chose to go to AI Prince. A student could choose to go to any technical school of which they wish to attend. We're only responsible for the one that's identified by the State Department for us, and that's Cheney.
Awesome. All right, perfect. Thank you. That helps understand those things. I see the students outplaced in two areas. So there's students outplaced in private facilities and there's students outplaced to public facilities. Can you differentiate between what those are, what are private facilities and what are public facilities?
Well, you're going to have a lot of information provided to you in an upcoming Board of Education meeting. I've actually slated Julie Carroll to come and do some presentations related to that. But basically, it's just different programs. Private facilities, they're for-profit facilities, really, is the best way to put it. They're not run by a public agency. And depending on the therapeutic program that you're looking for your students, you may wish to go to a public, you may wish to go to a private. Some do exactly the same thing. Typically, there's cost savings in public versus private. But again, when you're looking at outplacements, you're looking at what is the right fit for that student, because we cannot provide it here.
Thank you. And then the last thing that I would just clarify for folks, I appreciate all of this information of where our kids are. Magnet schools are incredibly complicated. There are multiple managers of the magnet schools. So CREC manages a multitude of these. Hartford Public Schools manages a multitude of magnet schools separate from their public schools. And Goodwin College has actually gotten into the game of magnet programming. There is a school choice website that I would encourage us and the public to, not that I'm selling other schools, but it is complicated. And I think it's important for folks to be aware of kind of what options are and how it all works. So again, thank you for this information and helping us with the budgeting process.
Ms. Legg. Sorry, I was just counting the number of schools.
No, you're fine. Mr. Macchio, I just want to clarify too that is the cutoff still October 1st for kids that have gone to magnet school that would return to the district that we would get a full refund for?
Yeah, so typically, when we receive our invoices, everything is based off of October 1st. So if the student was attending that school as of October 1st, we're going to get invoiced for them. I can tell you that there's one individual student that we're tracking down because as of October 1st, they were there, and as of October 3rd, they were re-enrolled with us.
Right.
So we will work back channels to make sure that we're getting properly invoiced.
Right. I think it's important for budgetary reasons to understand that if a student returns to us after October 1st, not talking about this particular situation, that we still have to pay the full magnet school tuition on top of them being in our district. So it's important to note that. I know that for the 13 years I've been here, we've seen a definite decrease in the amount of magnet school attendance. And I think two of the times, and Andy, you can correct me if I'm wrong, we saw a large amount of decreases in when the Enfield High was renovated, and then again when JFK was renovated. So I think those are just two important things to know, and I'm interested to see. I also think that we saw that decrease because magnet schools were a little bit losing their luster. Like they seemed like they were going to be better than the public school system, but then kids didn't like being out of town. School systems are school systems, so some of the same things they were encountering in Enfield were happening at magnet schools. So I just wanted to add that information.
Yeah, I think way back in the day, those numbers was like 350, something like that. Yeah, it was like I think it was a lot, yeah.
All right, anybody else? Mr. Kober.
Just a quick question, Mr. Marchio. You had mentioned about the homeschool kids, that they're not required to report that they're homeschooling. So do you believe that's an accurate number, or is that estimated based off of information we don't know?
These are the ones that we have the information for.
Okay. And have we seen, I mean, I'd imagine in the last couple of years, there's probably been a trend where it's probably been increasing post-pandemic. Have we seen any that have homeschooled and have come back to the district? Like, is that something to kind of watch out for in future years? Okay. Thank you.
All right. Anybody? Oh, Dr. Kelman.
I guess we don't have very much control over students, the money that we have to pay for students going out, but I guess we do have some control of money we can
take in from students coming in, specifically Eagle. Is there any conversation at all about expanding Eagle capacity?
I'm trying to hold him back. Yes, there is. Well, there's always there seems to be, in my 6 weeks here, always a little bit of conversation about expansion, but a lot of it has to do with space. Currently, right now, we do not have room at Eagle in terms of taking additional students in beyond where they're at. If we were able to work through a modernization where we reworked something, whether it was the 3 schools, whatever, all the different work that you folks had done in the past, part of that process would be potential relocation of Eagle to another site. We could expand it. You could probably almost double the number of students that you have there. There's significant benefit from the State Department of Education when you do construction under that, because it's about regionalization and providing additional opportunities to neighboring districts. But right now, unfortunately, Dr. Callan, it's just about the space, that we just don't have the space. Same thing with like Stowe. I mean, you see what's going on over at Stowe. The phenomenal work happening in incredibly tight quarters.
Excuse me. And just that number of students who are homeschooled seems really big. Do we have any idea of whether that's going up or going down? It's going up.
Yeah, it's going up. It was 154 as of October 1st, and as of today, it's 156. And there is a lot of ebb and flow in that number.
Anybody else? Okay.
The last item, I just need to put a plug in for Julie Carroll's program. And I think Enfield needs to understand in general, this district does a phenomenal job of holding on to our kids. When you look at the number of outplaced in private facilities and outplaced in other public schools, that's 22 kids out of 4,600 or 4,670 something. We do a phenomenal job of running programs here and holding on to our kids, because this is where the kids need to be. So that's why sort of the modernization work is going to be vital, so that we can continue to grow those programs and hold on to more of those kids. And I mean, this other side effect of it is obviously there's a revenue stream there, but it's more about we're doing what's right for kids here in Enfield. So that's my last plug. And like I said, I have Julie coming in in January. She's going to do some presentation as part of the budget.
Awesome.
Thank you very much. Mr. Macchio, this was an outstanding rundown of what we got going on. It definitely helps understand things a lot better. I'm just like 35 magnet schools that we attend, that kids attend, is like crazy. But thank you. Yeah, yep. Thank you very much. Okay, so we're gonna move on to number 8, audiences. Thank you. Okay, so everybody gets 4 minutes. You must identify your name, your full name, and your relationship to the district. All right, Maureen. Thank you. First.
To go. Maureen Griffin, Abbey Road. I'm going on a little different path tonight, kind of preaching, because it's been really contentious in the country, in our town, and it's rolling down onto the kids. Our kids are not blind or deaf. They hear what's happening. There's lots of vulnerable kids in our district. If it's not them that's vulnerable, it's family members or friends that they've been hearing talked about in really dehumanizing terms. And our kids did not have the breadth of experience to be able to really deal with the stress and fears that the rhetoric has brought out on these children. I have great faith in you, Charlotte, that you will enforce limits on how people can talk and the rhetoric. And we don't need to avoid the subjects. We need to remember that we're talking about real people. We're not talking about some nebulous them. These are real people, and they're friends and family and even our students. So we've got to pull back the BS rhetoric. The labels we give to our kids, to anyone else, to everybody, they're merely adjectives on the basic label of a human being. And we need to remember that. And we need to remember that when we are tearing down or speaking in a negative or offensive way about any group, no matter what your thought of them, but about any group, you're talking about families of our students, and that's not okay. I saw this thing today. I'm Catholic, try to live by it. I fail very frequently. Beatitudes is my thing, okay? A bishop wrote this today. Every human being bears within him or her the image of God, which confers upon us a dignity higher than any passport or immigration status. I would add to that any label you might want to give. Let's try and honor each other and not tear down. Thank you.
Thank you, Maureen.
Always over.
Okay, next up is Gregory Shorns.
Hello, Gregory Shurens, 19 Sam Street. I'm both a parent in this town and also a teacher. So I came to speak tonight in my role as a parent of a daughter and as a teacher in this district who is concerned for the well-being of my students. In the past few days, I've seen multiple posts online where young men and male influencers have been using the phrase, "Your body, my choice." I've seen articles written about how authorities are trying to figure out who sent out nationwide mass texts to black people, saying that they've been selected to pick cotton at the nearest plantation. Unfortunately, a lot of ugliness is coming out of the woodwork, and we are not safe from that here. I came to speak here to make sure that this is on the radar of the Board of Education because it's too important to miss. While we do have policies on hate speech and bullying, I think it's well past time to really engage the community about what their kids are taking in from the internet. I know that we've done some of this, like we've had internet safety nights and stuff like that, which is good. But what I'm asking for is a little bit more focus. The children we're teaching now have never been without the internet and never been without those built-in risks. The internet is not the same as it was, and social media has become a big part of that. It is hard to not find influencers who are openly misogynistic or racist, and they have millions of people that are following them. Andrew Tate is a great example of this. He had almost 9 million followers at one point before he was kicked off for saying that women were at least partially responsible for their own rapes. Let me say that again. These men with huge platforms that I know for a fact some of our students follow are blaming women for getting raped. The list of these types is long. I'm sure I'll have many people that will jump down my throat for saying this, but people like Joe Rogan, who is one of the most popular podcasters ever, has platformed some of these people. And help spread these ideas by giving those men a platform, and your children and your husbands and your partners are consuming it. Are these the kinds of ideas we want to spread when 1 in 4 girls and 1 in 6 boys will experience some form of sexual assault by the time they leave high school? And that was according to a study done in 2005, so I can't imagine it's gotten much better. While that's the national average, we have close to 1,600 kids in just the high school alone. That's potentially hundreds of students. My wife and I, who are both teachers, throughout our careers, have had multiple students either disclose abuse to us or have had it disclosed to us in meetings about what is going on with students. And it's pretty heartbreaking, some of the stuff that we've seen. So for me, it's always been here in this town. It's in every town. So I can't imagine allowing people to ingest more of this online garbage targeting women aimed at our young boys is going to help alleviate this problem. So what do? All right. Parents, like this kind of goes out to parents, please monitor what your kids are watching. I'm reminded of a very old PSA that used to come on TV that said, it's 10 o'clock, do you know where your kids are? I think that unfortunately we need to get back to that kind of PSA and ask parents, do you know what your kids are watching and who's watching them? Enfield is our community, and the children here are the most important part of keeping that community going. Men in this community should support women and make that public. We all came from a woman. We all know women. We all benefit from their labor and love and contributions to the community. I myself need to do a little bit more digging into where and who I can support. Men in this community need to make sure that to be a positive role model to our young men, and parents need to be aware of what their children are consuming and regurgitating at school. Our kids deserve better. Our kids deserve safety. Tackling this is a key issue in keeping our kids safe. I really do think that while we do have this policies on online safety and stuff like that, I really do think that we need to start focusing on what is happening to our young men. There have been many, many, many articles written about this, and I think it is a growing danger that we really, really need to start looking at. And it's not just a political thing where it's one group of parents or another. It's happening with all of them. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on to board member comments. Who would like to go first this evening? Mr. Cover? Report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So, as was mentioned, yesterday was Veterans Day, so just want to wish everybody a happy Veterans Day. Hope everybody got to enjoy the day off of school and kind of reflect on why we have that holiday to begin with. Today, I actually made it out briefly to one of our schools, Prudence Crandall. I did a brief, just a observation. They were having their Veterans Day assembly, and it was very nice seeing what the school did and how they reacted to that. I also want to mention, and as our audience, some members of our audience mentioned, this is our first board meeting post the election, predominantly the presidential election we had. So, I think it is important to remind ourselves of, civic discourse, calming down rhetoric and stuff like that. A lot of, while municipal offices weren't on the ballot, a lot of people were vocal and outspoken, and whether you wanted candidate A to win or candidate B to win, the results have been announced, and we now need to kind of get back behind that and focus on work that needs to be done. On that note, because it is an even year and we do hold elections in odd years, I just want to remind our board and the public that this current 23 to 25 BOE is 1 year in. So I think this is a good opportunity for us as board members to kind of self-reflect as where we started, where we are, and then where do we plan to go in the next year. And then, of course, for the public, talking about public participation and involvement, start to, evaluate what we're looking for next cycle. Because, again, when we talk about our last board meeting having our voices through our vote, and it gives people an opportunity to kind of get out there. On that note, I do want to highlight, and while this story doesn't relate to Enfield, I think it's kind of just important to highlight and make people aware of. And it happened in Connecticut. There was actually an educator in town of Cheshire, Connecticut, that posted some stuff, and it was apparently meant to be a private social media account. And it was in regards to the election, and it went along the lines of encouraging, violent behavior and extremism. And I think this is an example of, whether you're an employee or an applicant or a board member, that, it's hard to distinguish private versus public, right? So, obviously there's a lot of focus on this particular individual and on this district right now, but nobody's immune to it. And I think we all kind of need to, keep that in the back of your mind. Whether you're posting something on your personal page or if it's a public account, it's that perception and that understanding as to what you're saying. So, again, I kind of want everybody to stay in mind and, kind of keep that in your back pocket. We did talk about the enrollment report we got from our superintendent today was great, and I think this is going to tie into future conversations in school modernization. I think that's important. We've talked about it, and I think we got to keep talking about it. The one follow-up, and this doesn't have to be answered now, but I know the last time I was checking on EdSite, it still seems that annually we still do some sort of strategic school profile report. So I was just wondering when that gets sent to EdSite and that the board's included on it. I know the basics of that is enrollment, but it also includes other things like demographics, racial and ethnic categories, special needs, high needs, breakdown of those numbers. And then it'll normally include like a narrative of what got completed in the last year. So since we didn't get that tonight, at a future meeting or whenever that needs to be submitted to CSDE, that the board is included on that. In regards to my transparency initiative, there's no significant updates to report. As I mentioned before, there's still a lot of work going on in committees, driving the finance committee, asking a lot of questions, trying to get some things added to the agenda. Policy committee, we've had some long meetings. We're going to have some more long meetings. There's some policies we want to get through. I know our superintendent is fitting in great, and the board is getting these weekly updates, whether it's what happened during the previous week or the week ahead, and getting a real heads up and information. So I think we're making good strides. We still got a ways to go, but we're on the right path to, having conversations, being more transparent, and allowing the board to kind of have that information and all that stuff that's needed in order to make good decisions and have proper oversight. So a couple other things as we go through the agenda, I'll throw in some comments, but I do want to be brief tonight just to respect everybody's time. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Dr. Calnan?
So I know that I spoke a little bit about this at our last board meeting, but the initiative involving CCMC and Stowe gives me an opportunity to expand on pediatrician involvement with school systems. The Connecticut Children's Residence rotation through Stowe will really provide a great service to medical education. I think it's a real breakthrough. Pediatricians are trained to provide hospitals with certain services. Training in primary care is not of central importance in residency programs. Hospitals hire pediatricians or teach them what duties and responsibilities they want them to carry out. But primary care education is not at the top of their list of priorities. So young pediatricians may finish their training skilled at intubation of sick newborns or managing diabetic ketoacidosis or deciding on the best intravenous antibiotics for the management of sepsis, but they may well not have a working understanding of a 504 plan or an IEP or IDEA Part B or Part C, or the urgency of managing mental health diseases of mild to moderate severity, which any teacher or school nurse knows can have a profound impact on school functioning. So this is why Stowe is offering pediatric residents, what Stowe is offering pediatric residents is of such importance. Stowe can be a real pioneer in helping pediatricians address what is now called the new morbidity. That's what pediatrics is going to be all about in the years ahead. At a later date, we might want to consider involvement of the North Central Health Department in this rotation. Again, pediatric residents might benefit from a greater familiarity with preventive health care. They're pretty good at diagnosing and managing disease. They're not quite so good at preventing disease. Probably the first and most important linkage the pediatrician can make with their community is the school system. And an understanding of a child's health cannot be complete without taking the community into account. And after the family, that usually means the school. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Calnan. Who would like to go next? Ms. Spigot?
I want to thank and second both audience comments and encourage families to be vigilant, monitor, be inquisitive, and remember that we're our kids' first teachers, and our influence is immeasurable. So we have a lot of impact, and I do know that those stories are real, and students in Enfield and neighboring communities were impacted by some of those mass text messages. So again, just want to second those messages. I also want to just kind of reflect a little bit about our Head Start presentation and Stowe Early Learning Center. I think we need to be honest and reflect on the resources that are available there, that folks access and we often rave about. They need our support now more than ever. Early education matters, and we have an exemplar here in Enfield. I mentioned Native American Heritage Month earlier. Our community has a lot of pride in who we are, our roots, our traditions, and our culture. I encourage everybody to check out the resource native-land.ca. Here you can look up any address and see the tribe who originally inhabited the land. This rich resource will show just how diverse our community has always been. The town and the land that we now call Enfield was once home to many different tribes. Here, where the town hall is, was, oh gosh, all of my stuff just moved, sorry. Here where the town hall is was home to the Pocumtuck tribe. Sorry, my pronunciation. I tried really hard to listen to this over and over again, and I'm gonna get nervous and lose it all. But not too far down the road where I live dwelled the Podunk tribe, and up by Powder Hollow lived the Wangunks. Understanding our roots, traditions, and culture is very deep here in Enfield, and I'm hoping and excited to see that the Heritage Fair is being planned. I thank you, Head Start and Kite, for that collaboration. I am hoping that our Native roots are again demonstrated there at the Heritage Fair. Mr. Macchio, I want to thank you for your transparent communication with us as a board. I do have a couple questions regarding some of the board reports, so if it's okay, hoping to ask those. I saw some postings regarding some instructional support staff being hired for our elementary school, for elementary classes. I'm wondering kind of our long-term solutions surrounding those class size concerns and other resources or supports that might need to go along with that.
If you have an answer right now, go for it.
The extremely large classes, try that again. The extremely large class sizes is going to be our #1 priority as we build the budget. So addressing those specifically.
Thank you. I also noticed that there was a tour of the annex in your update. Tours were part of the modernization effort, so I'm wondering what the purpose and the intent of that tour was, and if there's any update on the school modernization work in the DPW subcommittee.
I mean, well, I could answer that for you. I was there on Thursday. So Thursday we did a walk around of everything that resides in the annex. There's been some rumors that it's just, empty storage space. But Board of Ed, the whole bottom floor, basically the cafeteria, is Buzz Robotics. We also have the adult ed program in there. We also have the alternative ed program in there. We have some storage of technology like iPad carts and such there.
We also have some sports that practice there.
Right, we have the wrestling team that practices there behind the stage in their wrestling room. They just practice there because they actually have the games at the high school, but instead of rolling out their mats all the time, we've just left a room there for them. We also have some storage. Actually saw the planetarium for the first time. We store some lamp-lighters, costumes and such in there because we do not have enough room at the high school to store all their costumes. There's also other things in there like Opera House players. They've got multiple rooms over there with costumes and building materials. They have like one of those moving pod things outside that they do carpentry work in or such because you can't do that in the school. The recreation department is in there. The pool is in there that, they do swim lessons and swim team. And, oh man, what else was in there? The police use part of the 3rd floor for practicing and such. There was some other, like the garden club is in there. So it was basically a categorizing of what is in there, what's housed in there. Does it need, can it go anywhere? What are they going to do with it? Kind of a thing. So everybody's kind of like on the same page as to know an inventory of what's going on.
Yeah, I would say it was an inventory of what's happening in the annex, and it was also a lot of discussion from the town side about any potential outreach type of programs, additional ways that they could utilize the site or the facility. And I would say, on side note, we had a lot of nice conversation related to modernization and spacing and things of that nature. So Charlotte and I and Mr. Longy are going to be following up. We have some meetings already scheduled.
Awesome. I will just highlight personally, for me, that is the only existing town pool that we have at the annex, and like the importance of a community resource around a pool. I don't know what the plans are for the annex. I'm just going to put that out there. That is our one remaining pool. I do have a follow-up on the Route 5 safety. Obviously, I think I feel like I've been a broken record for almost a year now talking about this. I'm going to continue to push for our Joint Security Subcommittee to look at signage, especially on Route 5, resources, our police department. A student was injured. I am incredibly concerned about our safety of walkers and our main roads. So I am begging our Joint Security Subcommittee to be looking more closely at that. Phil, you mentioned our recent election. I am encouraged by our community. The youth vote was awesome. So I know we had a board presentation on that, but I want to thank KITE, the EPS students, and the staff who organized and volunteered. I know that they announced the ice cream flavor winner. Okay. Whew. Okay, never mind. I guess some official results will come out. And I'm just going to encourage folks that the results and the turnout from this past election was incredibly encouraging. I'm begging people to come out next year. It is our local election, and we need you then. I want to thank you to the PTOs. I see you. You're organizing, you're fundraising, you're supporting our schools and our staff, and I thank you. And I thank you to our staff. I notice how hard you are also working and the steps being taken to engage families. Conference questionnaires, parent square notification and updates. There was a second grade pumpkin event at ESS. I know that it's tough, but we see you and we thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Pickett. Anybody else would like to go? Mrs. Coachman, sorry.
I just wanted to extend a special thank you to Dr. Wiley for hosting the social media presentation last Tuesday at JFK with Trooper First Class Officer James White, who's the statewide DARE coordinator. During the school day, Officer White had the opportunity to interact personally with the 5th grade students at Eli Whitney, Prudence Crandall, and Parkman elementary schools, and had really wonderful things to say about his interaction with them. He appreciated their attentiveness, their enthusiasm and eagerness to learn ways to be safe and to use social media wisely. In the evening, Officer White then led an interactive and very informative social media presentation for all parents, guardians, and caregivers of our pre-K through 12th grade students, exploring trends and how today's youth navigate social media platforms, as well as strategies and techniques to monitor children's online activity. Mr. Shern's concerns about influencers are valid. I appreciate him coming tonight and expressing those. And it just reminded me of how Officer White placed quite an emphasis on family conversations around social media. He suggested watching and doing things together online with follow-up discussions and asking your students questions like, what did you learn? Especially when it comes to these influencers, what do you think about what they're saying and what do you like about it? He suggested sites and 2 specific sites and a blog for parents and guardians to explore. One is called commonsensemedia.org, and the other one is bark, BARK.US/blog. These have a lot of great information and articles and suggestions for parents to help keep their kids safe online. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Cushman. Ms. LeBlanc?
Sure. Just a couple quick things. As Ms. Pickett stated, November is Native American Heritage Month. For those who don't know, President George H.W. Bush designated November as National Native American Heritage Month in 1990. I'd like to take a minute to thank the veterans for your service, protecting us and defending our rights. Next month, the town will be holding our annual Wreaths Across America ceremony. Also, the Torchlight Parade will be Sunday, December 1st. EPS and student involvement is what helps make this event so special. This is also World Kindness Week. What started as Kindness Day turned into Kindness Week. You can celebrate by donating books, food, or clothes to local communities and pledging to empathize with other people. Even the smallest acts of kindness can go a long way. This made me think of Rachel's Challenge. One of the 5 challenges given in Rachel's Challenge is to start a chain reaction with family and friends of kindness and caring. One smile, one compliment can go a long way because we don't know what individual battles people are going through, which leads me to ask through the chair to the superintendent, do we still have Rachel's Challenge in EPS?
Not formally. Not formally, but there are still clubs around, but it's not the full club that we used to have.
Is that due to budget cuts, or is it?
I
Are we
think it
seeing
ran
a-
its course, and we're doing other SEL type activities.
Understandable.
Yep.
Thank you. So I actually had on here the kite youth vote results, but I'm gonna scratch that, Dr. Jerry. And I'm excited to see the youth vote results come out. I was hoping they were gonna be in our board packet, but I didn't see those. To Ms. Griffin and Mr. Shorns, you kind of both came to speak about the same thing independently. I wanna thank you both for coming tonight. I wanted to add that I have been the target of many social media posts, along with Ms. Pickett, Counselor Sakala, coming from men. Hopefully women like myself, Ms. Pickett, and Counselor Sakala can help show the girls in our community that beyond the hateful rhetoric, we can be strong, we can lead, and no men on social media will dull our sparkle or our will to do what's right here in Enfield. It's an angry world. I fully understand your concerns for your daughter, students, and community, and I wish I had the right answer. I was appalled at the text that went out to the Black community, and I hope the authorities are working to get to the bottom of this. It is not okay. I talked to Ms. Pickett in great detail about it, and as Ms. Pickett said to me, using our voice lets our community know that we are a safe space. Lastly, Dr. Jerry, you thanked us, but I would like to thank you. Your dedication to the youth in Enfield is unmatched, and your constant advocacy for early childhood intervention and mental health has brought this board and community a wealth of information. So you are the one that needs to be thanked, and that is why you have a very special buddy bench. So I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay. Anybody else want to go? I'll go. Okay. Mr. Ryder, go for it.
You want to start your timer, Peter?
Sorry, our co-member's timing is. So I also want to thank everybody in my family who have served in the armed forces on Veterans Day yesterday, including my father's father, who's passed, as well as some of my uncles and cousins. So on a personal note, I just wanted to thank them for that, not just yesterday, but always. Speaking of Kindness Week, tomorrow I'll be wearing another hat that I wear in town, distributing the North Central Act of Kindness Awards, JFK. We have a couple of students will be getting some kindness awards tomorrow. Somebody mentioned the football game and the great walk-off. I had that there, so I won't get into that, but I will say that the football game that was supposed to be held on Wednesday, November 29th, has been moved up a couple of days. It'll be Friday, November 22nd, and that will be senior night for our senior football players. Game time has been changed to 6 o'clock, so it'll be Friday, November 22nd at 6 o'clock. Please get there as close to 5 as you can because of the senior night pre-ceremonies.
Can I ask you a question? Is that the Route 5 rivalry game?
No, I didn't write down our opponent, just the other details, sorry.
It's not? Okay. Sorry.
Also, this was touched on very briefly, but I want to congratulate Izzy for joining the National Honor Society last school year. And although you mentioned it, you didn't mention that you were actually there and awarded. So I wanted to also thank Olivia and congratulate her. And I also wanted to congratulate my daughter, who was up on stage with both of you as well last week. So 2 of the new 43 inductees, as well as 1 from last year. So I was very proud to see both of you there. Meant a lot to my family, and I'm proud of my daughter, and I know that your dad's proud of you, and your family's very proud of you. So I also, since the last time we met, had all my JFK conferences. We did that back on October 30th, and I want to thank all of our JFK teachers. There weren't a lot of parents there the afternoon that I was there, so I do want to encourage our parents to get involved in our students' education as much as you can. I know it was the afternoon and there's another evening set of conferences coming up, but please make sure you check in with your teachers and do what you can at home to help our kids. And I want to thank all the teachers that I met with. I had a great time chatting with you guys, and I appreciate all that you do for our students. Wreaths Across America was also mentioned. That the date specifically is Saturday, December 14th, and the day ahead of that is Friday, December 13th, and we will be doing PJ Day as a district again this year. I have emailed all of the flyers and whatnot to Kathy, so that'll be going out tomorrow to all the principals and students and staffs, our flyers, social media graphics, etc. So we're looking forward to Friday, December 13th. This will be our 7th year doing it as a district, although schools have been participating for the entire 12-year run of PJ Day individually, at least JFK. I know Parkman, Hazardville has been there from the beginning, but we've done this as a district, and we've done some incredible things as a district. We're not the biggest town in Connecticut, but we have been a top 10 finalist as far as fundraising as a town. The first few years that we did this as a team, and the last several years, we've been a top 5 school. So I look forward to that. And we have raised, as a district, since 2018, that was the first year we did it, all buildings, one team. We have raised over $45,000 in 6 years. So this will be our 7th year again as a district. Our goal is around $9,000, which would put us at a total for the 7 years of $55,000 from Enfield, Connecticut. So thank you to our bus drivers and to our staff and to our students and everybody that participates. And there'll be online donations, et cetera, and flyers going home this week. So thank you very much, and that's it for this week.
Thank you, Ryder. Anybody else like to go?
How'd I do, Peter? How'd I do?
Anybody else?
Was it under 5 minutes, buddy?
Jesus
Okay.
Christ, you had a problem?
Yes.
All right, guys,
with
please.
you.
No, not now.
Your
Can we-
timing,
wait,
phone
wait.
numbers.
Hey,
Is a meeting.
Okay, now I do have something to say. I didn't have anything to say. Now I do.
all right, let's
What
keep-
is
can we
your
keep it
problem?
civil? Can we please keep this civil?
What I want to do, sit here and write. I'll write and I'll do what I want up here. I don't need your bull.
Are we done?
Other than that, I'd like to throw a shout out to Sarah Brown for the way she writes up her the activities and everything that's going on at JFK. She's done a phenomenal job.
Okay, so the only thing that I would like to add is I want to thank Mr. Macchio for consistently banging down the door at the state of Connecticut regarding our alliance status to get more information on funding mechanisms and the like. He's been trying to get a meeting with the commissioner for quite some time, which is being pushed off and such. But he does not give up. He's persistent. And we'll be having some people come and give a presentation on the funding of that. And I also would like to just put out there, you know, now that we have some old and some new representatives, my hope is that they maybe watch that meeting or, you know, come and sit with us and listen to it, so that maybe all of us can row in the same direction to make sure that, you know, the funding is correct. And since we have some amazing students, obviously they're sitting right here with us, and we have amazing educators, that maybe we can get out of the alliance status, and hopefully they can all push in the same direction so that our ECS funding does not get cut once we excel out of that program. So that would be great. And then I would just like to say, you know, I see the signs around town sometimes for, I think it's the Lions Club, and their sign simply says, "Be kind," and I would request that, you know, everybody up here take that to heart, and that our community takes that to heart. Just everybody be kind to each other. You have no clue what anybody else is going through, how their day went. Maybe their dog died. Maybe, you know, maybe their parents are sick or their kids are sick or whatever the case may be. Just be kind and not pass judgment. Okay, next.
Just one more thing, please.
Sure.
Just out of curiosity, Scott, starting at the beginning of the meeting, I was timing everything, every segment. It wasn't just the board.
That's inaccurate because.
Bull it is. I was using my watch. So it's in the margin. Take a look.
All right, come on now.
Jesus.
I think it'd be helpful, so I understand our meetings are long, Peter, I'm with you. Our meetings are long.
Thank you.
But I think there are ways that we can talk about the length of our agenda and also look back at previously recorded meetings and take timestamps, because it's a little distracting, but I understand what you're getting to.
Okay. We're going to move on now. We're going to move on to unfinished business, which we have none. And we have new business. So we already took care of A. We now have B, which is discussion and action regarding updating authorized signers for the Gifted and Talented Investment Account. So, Mr. Macchio, do you want to explain? Do you want me to read this from Lorena? I can. All right, well, I'll just read it then. So, our business manager, Lorena Cisneros, is requesting that the board update our Gifted and Talented Investment Account authorized signer agreement with Wolf Financial Group. Myself and Mr. Macchio will be on there now as authorized signers, and the previous signers will be removed from the account. So you do not have that paperwork in your packet because they have asked for our super duper confidential information. I guess that's a not so cool perk of the job. But anyways, I need a motion to approve updating the Gifted and Talented Investment Account authorized signer agreement.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Dr. Callen, second by Ms. LeBlanc. Is any discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Cover.
I'll just chime in. While we didn't take any action on it during finance and budget, we did mention this topic, and we agreed it's important that our point of contacts for the tag account should be updated. So
Yeah.
the subcommittee's in consensus.
Yes.
I know this has nothing to do with the authorized signers, but Gifted and Tag has been part of curriculum committee conversations for over a couple of years, and there's policy attached to it. So this is like all three subcommittees are part of TAG, and I do think that there is an opportunity for us with now new signers and leadership to take a look at our TAG policy. There's also like a will that like dictates what we can use this money for, but really kind of looking at the interconnected, because I know we've been trying to reimagine TAG and how we can use those funds. And that we've been taking a consistent amount, but I think there's some flexibility in kind of how we use that money. So I would encourage us to look at alignment and best use of funds.
Yeah, Tina brought that.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I brought that up tonight in the finance meeting, and we did speak about that and gave a little bit of history about how there was a point in time that we were meeting with them, Wolf, to talk about any additional monies they could free up, and that it was touching that every single policy, and it was requiring every subcommittee to be working together. So Superintendent Macchio was writing that down and adding it to his to-do list.
Good luck. Yeah, the mile-long one.
Tina, when we were on the board before and it started, wasn't it really locked in? The money was just to be used?
It can only be used at JFK.
Yeah, and there's a legal resolution for it. Dr. Jerry had pulled it up when we were looking to expand the TAG program, and we're really only using the interest off of it to fund it.
Yeah.
But I will, in good news, is that I think when this was awarded, it was $5 million. After all the deposition and legal fees, we were finally given $2.5 million, and now it's up to about $3.5 million. So.
And we're still just using the interest.
Correct. But we were asking that if we were going to enhance the program, what more from the interest could we use to finance? Like, how much more did Wolf feel that we could expend?
So I think the last time we spoke with Wolf was about a half a year ago or something like that. And at that time, they were recommending a conservative approach and not really increasing the investment in the TAG activities because they were still worried about the possibility of market volatility. But I wonder if maybe we should have another meeting. Well, we talked about that, another meeting with Wolf to see if maybe in view of the current market situation, we might want to liberalize the amount of money that we donate to the program.
But we're going to keep a minimum where the program will continue to function.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I think
expand where you can, but
right.
They still don't want us, I don't think they'll ever recommend that we touch the principal. Yeah.
I mean, that's not part of the court order.
No, but in curriculum, Peter, we have talked about reimagining what TAG could potentially look like. Right now, it's one staff member doing some limited support, and I think we've explored like what are our talented and gifted options, and maybe what could some possibilities of that programming look like. But it's tied to policy, and it's tied to what's written in like the stipulation of how we can use the fund. So we have to be very careful.
Yes. Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, so roll call, please, Kathy.
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Dr. Kalman?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Janitis?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Item C, policy revisions, first reading. Ms. Cushman, we have 3 policies. Would you like to start with 0521?
I got it. Can we
However you
do
wanna
them
do it.
all
You
together?
want
I
that?
just,
Perfect.
the proposed policy updates on the agenda this evening were recommended and approved by legal counsel for the town of Enfield and for the Board of Education to ensure compliance with all applicable law, including a recent federal court decision. I'd like to make a motion to approve the first reading of policy 0521, non-discrimination, policy 4118.11, non-discrimination, and policy 4118.112, discrimination and harassment.
So moved.
Motion made by Ms. LeBlanc, second by Ms. Pickett. Any discussion regarding the matter? Mr. Kober?
Thank you, Madam Chair. So in full disclosure, I sit on the policy committee where we worked on these and we pushed them out. So obviously the 3 are kind of bundled. They all relate to the same thing, but I think there's some differences in them just that I kind of want to speak to. And on one of the policies where I'm a little conflicted on. So the first one I'll speak about is the 0521. This is the non-discrimination policy and notice. And this is a full rewrite of this policy, and it was sponsored or initiated through legal updates as well as litigation that had occurred. So looking at this policy and the kind of the length of it and the verbiage, it's been kind of removed and re-added and so forth. I think this is kind of one of the examples where perhaps it's too long or too detailed of a policy. I mean, if you look at the cross-reference policies and the legal references, we have probably a full page just on cross-reference policies and legal references for this. And based on that, there's a lot of other policies that kind of cover the same thing. So, in some of the other discussions we've had where we're talking about reducing and streamlining, I think at least this specific, the 0521 proposal kind of works against the spirit of that, where we're adding that. I think part of where I'm also a little concerned with this is part of the base of this is the Title IX law as a core reference for that. And for those that are unfamiliar, so Title IX is a law that passed in the early 1970s dealing with sex discrimination and harassment. And the statutory law is actually relatively brief. However, as the decades have gone on, the Department of Education at the federal level has been entrusted with implementing that law and writing rules and regulations. So most of Title IX now is enforced through regulatory law and not statutory law. So I think with this 0521, we're implementing, an additional level of bureaucracy into that. I know also with some of the bigger things going on in the country and possible changes through Title IX is something we need to be cognizant of, as well as, there is additional ongoing litigation and injunctions against some of the enforcement of Title IX that I think kind of strips away at some of this in the 0521 policy. Regarding, since we're going to do them as a bundle, the 4118.1 I think is a little more straightforward. It just includes added verbiage, which the spirit of those changes just cover identifying that this policy also covers activities and members of the board, and it also covers, in the event a disability is requested, what the process is in mediation. So I think those changes are a little more reasonable and not in dispute. And then I think the last policy, 4118.112, has a very minor change with just a sentence, including the legislative intent that that policy also applies to the board. So just in summary of kind of my individual stance, I think the latter two changes are not what I would be diametrically opposed to, but I think the first policy revision is probably working against what we say, that we're trying to streamline and do this, where we'd be passing a policy we may be re-looking at in the very near future, especially if there's changes at the Department of Education and/or the Department of Education rules on Title IX updates.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Anybody else? Ms. Pickett?
Phil, I'm with you on streamlining policy. It is my understanding that we are legally bound to the changes in policy 0521. That's why we need to pass it as far as updated state law and the Title IX changes that you mentioned. I am with you that there might be changes on the horizon. However, I believe that we pass policies of what's current best practice, and then if there's changes that come, we have a process for how we update and change our policies, and that will be what happens next. So I'm going to say that that's one that's important and for us to follow, but I do agree looking at streamlining policies and practice.
Thank you. Dr. Callen?
Is this one of those situations where we really can't amend the policy? We cannot amend this. So it's either an up or down vote.
That's correct.
Yes.
Okay.
All right.
I had a suggestion, but
Makes it tougher.
to amend.
Yeah. Anybody else? Okay, so roll call vote, please, Kathy.
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Was the motion to approve all three?
All three.
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Dr. Kalnin?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Janitis?
No.
Mr. Kober?
No.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay, and D, Suffield Regional Agri-Science Center Consulting Committee appointments. You want to cover this one?
Sure.
Okay.
We have a letter from Dr. Laura Laflamme, Director of the Regional Agri-Science Center over in Suffield. She's requesting for Bill Guzzi, an Enfield resident, to be added as a member of their Suffield Regional Agri-Science Center Consulting Committee for a 3-year term. They did currently have 2 members, but one of the members is unable to continue in that role. So there's a vacancy, and Mr. Guzzi has remained active with their alumni and works in actually the agriculture industry, obviously Bill's landscaping. So she feels as though he'd be the perfect fit for them.
Okay, so I need a motion to appoint Bill Guzzi and reappoint Sam Smith and reappoint Sam Smith as Enfield's representatives to serve on the Suffield Regional Agri-Science Center Consulting Committee.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made by Ms. LeBlanc, second by Mr. Ryder. Is there any discussion? Mr. Kober.
So just a quick question. I know in our packet it includes a nomination from the Suffield Regional Agri-Science Center. So I guess my only question, and whether or not we know, is did Bill Guzzi express interest or apply for this? I know a lot of times we appoint people and fill vacancies on boards and associations, and they end up not being active members, whether because they weren't interested or they just have too much going on. So I just want to clarify that this individual is interested and will participate to the extent that we're appointing him.
Gotcha. Mr. Macchio's over there shaking his head yes. I know he had a conversation over the phone with the director.
Right. So I'm very aware of the actions and how it happens over there, considering I used to help run the program. So Mr. Guzzi is a very active member of their alumni over there. So they have different roles within the community. They have the alumni relations. They have the consulting committee, which is sort of like the Head Start's version of the policy committee, which helps to oversee that information. So he is incredibly active. You would not be receiving the letter from Dr. Laflamme if she didn't already know that he was willing to do it.
All right. No, I appreciate that further input. Thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, sensing none. Roll call, please, Kathy.
Mrs. Pickett?
Yes.
Mr. Ryder?
Yes.
Mrs. Acree?
Yes.
Dr. Kalnin?
Yes.
Mrs. Cushman?
Yes.
Mr. Janitis?
Yes.
Mr. Kober?
Yes.
Mrs. LeBlanc?
Yes.
Chairwoman Riley?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Okay. Moving on to board committee reports, curriculum committee.
Our next meeting is Thursday, November 21st.
Finance budget committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Unfortunately, my committee report will not be as brief. So the Finance Committee met actually earlier tonight, November 12th at 5:30 p.m. here at Town Hall. Our next meeting, we actually scheduled, we moved around on the board, so it will be Tuesday, December 10th at 5:30 p.m., also here at Town Hall prior to a full board meeting. During today's Finance and Budget meeting, we did review accounts and payroll for the month of October, so that will be addressed later tonight in item 15. And just to clarify, because it looks like there's a misprint on the agenda, so it's not for the month of September. We will be recommending approval on accounts and payroll for October of 2024. That said, during tonight's meeting, we also discussed a baseline as well as the calendar for the FY26 budget timeline and development. So we got some good information, and we look forward to working on that. And then we also discussed the current FY25 budget status. So just to review the summary lines on that, the appropriation for FY25 is $77,429,555. Actual expenditures year to date is $26,379,102. And our total projected expenses for FY25 will be $75,410,176. So this leaves a projected surplus at the end of the year of $2,019,379. As we did address previously, this is subject to change due to ongoing changes in staffing, services, and so forth. So any projected surplus or deficit will probably be more accurate towards the end of the year. And of course, there are plans that if we do end financially in the black instead of the red, that will be held in a carryover and or repaying of the town based on previous years. So as far as a summary from finance and budget, that's all I have, pending any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Kober. Anybody else? Okay. All right, so policy committee.
The next meeting of the Policy Committee will be on Tuesday, November 19th at 5:30.
Okay, and leadership committee. We now have standing meetings the week before Board of Ed meetings, and we had just actually discussed the status of current budget, next budget year, what priorities will be. We discussed the addition of teaching assistants temporarily to the end of the year until we can build that into next year's budget to correct the issue of the very large classrooms. We talked about Alliance, and that's basically it. So our next leadership meeting is next Wednesday. The date, I don't know the number because I don't have my calendar up. Okay, the 20th. All right, liaison reports, Joint Facilities Committee.
Next meeting's November 14th is the next meeting.
Yeah, I was just going to ask about that. We haven't received an agenda or anything on that yet, or any information.
I don't know how much detail you can go into, but they did talk about the two schools that are not part of the public schools.
That's joint security.
That's Joint Security. We're done facility.
I realized that. I just screwed up.
Okay, no problem.
That one I'll admit to.
Was wondering what I missed at the last meeting that I was at.
So we talked about, there was an update on the roofs. On the library roof, the plan was on finishing up before the end of the year. The police department was started on 10/21, and they were supposed to be done by 10/29. The roof for Parkman, we can only apply between the dates of November 1st to the 10th with the state. And Mr. Macchio's information had to get updated in the computer system at the state to be the ultimate signer. And then Alcorn, we need to reapply for because all the paperwork has to be in his name.
Yep.
And there you go.
I'm just wondering because we haven't received an agenda or anything yet, so I wonder if they're still going to have it. So
I'm not sure. I'm not sure on that one yet. So if we do, it's Thursday. If we don't, I don't know. All right. JFK Building Committee.
No update this week.
Okay. Now Joint Security.
I already gave it. That's all I'm going to say about it.
When's the next meeting for Joint Security?
December 13th.
Okay.
Friday.
All right. Enfield Mental Health Committee.
The mental health meeting was held on October 30th. Our guest presenters were David White and Julie Carroll. Mr. White and Ms. Carroll shared information on the trauma-based professional development for the teachers and staff, and it was presented in 2 modules. The first module was titled Foundations of Trauma and Informed Care. This module focused on scientific information and data and understanding the different types of trauma so the staff can recognize and respond appropriately. The second module was titled Staff and System Wellness. This module focused on self-care. Teachers reflected on taking care of themselves and also helping to take care of others, and which is called co-care. Overall, the professional development presentations was well received by the staff. And next, we discussed Circle of Security, the Circle of Security program, which is at Stowe. It is a support group where parents come together to discuss concerns about their children under a trained facilitator. We would like to expand this support group to kindergarten and grade 1. We'd also like to invite Amy Morales to a Board of Ed meeting to explain in depth what Circle of Security is. A date is to be determined. During the meeting, we also discussed how we would like a continued collaboration with the pediatricians. We would like to see pediatricians not only do the physical component during a child's office visit, but also co-manage their patients who may have a diagnosis of ADD, depression, or anxiety. And lastly, we discussed the 119K Commission, which is just, it's a program started by the state, and this program is addressing the disengagement of students in the schools presently. We have not set up a meeting with Mr. Longy for December. Thank you.
Enfield Culture and Arts.
They are currently meeting right now.
Oh, okay. School reports and updates. Anybody want to go first? Mr. Ryder, do you want to go first?
Sure.
Okay.
Just a couple of updates from Eli Whitney. These are things that are not in the newsletter yet or have been sent home. Some are just reminders. But once again, as our student reps mentioned, and a couple of schools are doing this throughout the district, we're wearing blue on Thursday, 11/14, to support diabetes awareness, and we're wearing red on Friday, November 22nd, from the American Heart Association. Saturday, November 16th, is the Wolfpack game for Eli Whitney and Hasbro Memorial families. That's at 6 o'clock. There's also a wrapping paper fundraiser underway. Students have been collecting Cluckies to bring in with their coupons. And if you want to know what Clucky is, I have this is the prize. There we go. That's Clucky. It's like a chicken, I think, I believe.
Does he squeak?
I don't know. Our dogs will let us know. Anyway, one lucky winner will be chosen at random to win the giant Clucky after the fundraiser closes on November 22nd. Also collecting donations for our annual Whitney Wolf Walk on Wednesday, November 17th. Class that collects the most donations will get a chance to silly string Mr. LaMesa. Families are encouraged to come by and cheer on our wolves as they take a lap around the building. They'll be walking, that's the early release day prior to Thanksgiving. Grade 3 at 11:30, grade 5 at 12:05, and grade 4 at 12:40. Again, this information will be relayed in the coming weeks in the principal's newsletters. And also, the Eli Whitney Wolves are excited to welcome back Mr. Casada, back from his retirement, as he and his band will be performing in a special assembly on Monday, November 25th. So welcome back, Mr. Casada. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? Mr. Cover?
So not a lot specifically for Henry Barnard. A lot of the district-wide events and Spirit Days are already kind of been mentioned. And of course, we had it was the last meeting, the meeting before, we talked about Parent Square being the new source of information. So again, to reiterate that, friends, family, parents, if you're not getting Parent Square, make sure you're downloading that app or getting added to that newsletter. And just so parents are aware, the 2 half-days coming up, Wednesday the 13th and November 18th, those are set up for fall conferences at the PK through 5 level, so Barnard will be doing parent-teacher conferences on those days. If they haven't booked them, there's limited spots available, but go ahead and get their bookings done. Thank you.
Okay, Dr. Callen?
Just a quick report for Kite. 255 students in grades 2 and 3 voted in the Kids Vote, the much-awaited results this year. And the winner of their favorite ice cream was, drum rolls, vanilla. Kite also gave out more than 130 play packs and is grateful for the partnership with Enfield Public Schools and the registrars of voters to make this possible. Heritage Fair will be coming back in 2025 in partnership with Enfield Head Start. Kite's new program coordinator, Hannah Song, will be leading the committee, and more members are needed. If interested, please email her at hsong@enfield.org. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Callen. Mrs. Cushman?
The Parkman Community Committee will be working with Cookies for Camouflage to collect items that will be sent out to soldiers who are serving, not able to come home for the holidays. They're looking for store-bought cookies, gum, candy, but no chocolate, handwritten notes, cards, and hygiene items. Donations are being collected from November 4th through the 25th.
Ms. Acree?
From Crandall, the students and staff honored our Crandall veterans at our first annual Veterans Day Assembly. Over 59 veterans were honored. Crandall's Family Engagement Day will take place on Wednesday, November 27th. Parents are welcome to join their student in the classroom for an activity, and we will have community organizations to provide resources and connect with you. There is a schedule. Grade 3, it's from 9:50 to 10:25. Grade 4, 10:30 to 11:05. And grade 5, 11:10 to 11:45. And the next Barnard Crandall PTO meeting will be held on November 19th.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, so Buzz Robotics, they are currently doing a fundraiser. They have a raffle calendar of sorts. It is $10.70 through PayPal. I bought 2 today. But you can find the link on their Facebook page, and you can also, I believe, find the link on their website as well. So if you want to get in on the fun, definitely, it's for a good cause. Those kids at Buzz Robotics are awesome, and actually, most of them were on the National Honor Society. The other day, I saw their pictures up there as well. And then I know report cards went out at JFK, and report cards went out for everywhere else. Yeah. Yep. So if you can't find them, sometimes they're in your spam folder. Maybe that's something that we can look into for Parent Square or something. Maybe we can have like links to get to your own kid's report card through there to make it easier. I don't know, just an idea. So, moving on to 14, approval of minutes. Regular Board of Ed meeting minutes, October 22nd, 2024. I need a motion to approve. Motion made by Dr. Kalman.
Second.
Second by Ms. LeBlanc. Any discussion?
Just a note, and this is probably for myself to remember later. I think there was like 2 minor things. So I'll owe an email to our recording secretary, and I'll follow up with that later.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I need a show of hands in favor. There is in favor of approving the minutes of October 22nd. So I have 1, 2, 3. Scott. Oh, okay, so I have 8 in favor. Any against? And abstentions. 1 abstention.
I did watch it on TV, though.
Okay, so moving on to number 15, Approval of accounts and payroll.
All right, thank you, Madam Chair. So for item 15, the Finance Committee met on November 12th, 2024 to review financial statements for the month of October year-to-date and examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded there was nothing of significance to report to the board. Motion is, I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. Quote, I hereby certify that in the month of October, total expenditures amount to $7,704,426.62, broken down between payroll totaling $4,383,446.42, and other accounts totaling $3,320,980.20. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approvals for check invoices are properly documented, end quote, prepared by Lorena Cisneros, business manager.
All right, motion made by Mr. Kober. I need a second.
Second.
Second by Mr. Janitis. Any discussion? Okay, sensing none, I need a show of hands in favor. There is 9 in favor, none against.
All right. Second account to read in. This will be certification of grants and Head Start expenditures. So again, the Finance Committee met on November 12th to review financial statements for grants during the month of October year-to-date and examine various documents related to finances. Our review concluded there was nothing of significance to report back to the full board. Motion, I move we accept the superintendent's certification as follows. Quote, I certify that in the month of October, total grant and Head Start expenditures amount to $468,295.81, broken down between payroll totaling $406,344.55 and other accounts totaling $61,951.26. All payments have been made in accordance with the approved budget and are properly accounted for within the books of accounts. Copies of approvals for check invoices are properly documented, end quote, prepared by Lorena Cisneros, business manager.
Okay, motion made by Mr. Kober. Can I have a second? Second. By Ms. Acree. Any discussion? Can I show of hands in favor? 9 in favor, none against. Okay. Nothing else, right, Phil?
Correct. There's no line item transfers and no further action items.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Kober. All right, Mr. Ryder, correspondence and board communications?
Nothing that was not included in our packet.
Okay, we do not have a need for executive session this evening, so that means.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
Motion made by Mr. Kober, second by Ms. Pickett. Show of hands in favor. 9 in favor, none against. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.